Welcome, everyone. Today is June 10th, and you are watching MogTalk. If you are unfamiliar with what MogTalk is, it's a show based around Final Fantasy XIV discussing anything from Chocobo Racing to Savage Raiding. At the moment, there are a few very concerning topics for players going into Stormblood. Today, we are going to discuss one of them, which of course is white mages and their place in Stormblood. And to talk about it, we have some really, really awesome guests today. So let's just go ahead and bring them on board here. I'm going to let them all introduce themselves. First, we have Mr. Bach. Bach, say hi to everybody.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Hi.
Hi. Bach, tell everyone your kind of healing experience. Do your best to make yourself look as impressive as possible within like 1 to 2 sentences.
Okay. Well, I started healing in Midas, like halfway through Midas. Prior to that, I was a warrior main, but I switched. I was gonna switch to white mage, and a good friend of mine, Chet Nix, convinced me that Astra was better for A7 and A8, to which I agreed, and to this day I still agree. And Creator was actually the first tier that I started out as a healer. I'm gonna be honest. I kind of feel outclassed right now by some of the other guests because, like, we got Miunih and Ayesa who have world first clears, and Kionu, who holds all the world records for like speed clears, and I'm just thinking to myself, what the fuck have I done? I guess I healed the healer time gate as a paladin. I don't know if any of you guys could say that, but yeah, no.
You know, it's kind of funny. I'll tell you a story about that too. Like, I was talking to Miunih. I was trying to convince him to come on the show, right? I was like, Miunih, you want to come on the show, dude? And I was like, you know, if you don't come on the show, I'm going to have to get someone that's like a lesser guest than you. Kind of like trying to nudge him on, like being, hey, if you don't come on, it's not going to be as good. And then I was like, he was like, well, who's the other guest that's going to come on? And I said, oh, Bach. And he's like, what the fuck? You're trying to say lesser guest than me? And you say Bach? So I think you have a little bit more ground than you think.
I don't know. I'm the small timer here, but I'll do my best to contribute.
Okay. You always have done really well, so I'm expecting good things as long as you don't mess up the mute thing, right?
Okay. Thanks, man.
Yeah. All right. So next, I want to introduce. He has been on the show quite a few times as well for different topics, mainly with healing and PvP. Kionu. Kyo, can you introduce yourself to everybody?
Hi, Kionu.
Yeah.
Miunih and I have fused together.
Yeah.
My name is Kyo. I've been healing since first coil, which I was a scholar in all of regular coils, and then I switched to white mage for Alexander, and I've been world progging since Gordius. Unfortunately, no victories, but I've been in the race.
Nice. All right, and then Miunih. Introduce yourself to everybody, dude.
Yo, I'm Miu. I'm from Elysium, from Gilgamesh, from Ayesa, and I don't know. I've been white mage since 2.0, and I grew and I got some world first, and that's about it, really. I don't know. I just like healing.
I got world first, and that's about okay. I'm done.
Yo, listen.
Okay. All right. Miunih's been on the show a handful of times. I actually think Miunih is the most veteran of everybody here on this show right now. You were on the show around healing way back, right before our 50th episode.
So, yeah, once with that was Kara.
Yeah, Kara was hosting that one. One of the only shows that I didn't host.
With that Greek guy, he was really cool.
God, yeah, he was. Why can't I remember?
He had I don't know.
Cool. Enigma, right?
Yeah, that's him.
All right. Okay. Well, cool. Let's bring on our next guest here, Ayesa. Oh, how do I say your name, dude? I never get it.
Don't worry. I can tell you how to pronounce it, but you'll get it wrong next time anyway. So
yeah. Tell me how to pronounce it again.
Okay, so I'm Ayesa Fail, one of the healers for Angered. I started in Heavensward, where I played White Mage initially until we cleared A3. And then for A4, I swapped to Scholar, and I've pretty much been playing that ever since. Though I have gone back to White Mage a bit to help out other groups. So I've done all of Midas with White Mage, and I've also done bits of Creator as White Mage, but mostly after Echo. Like, not so serious stuff, since Astra's been a lot stronger.
Yeah, they got completely outrageously buffed, and that's been the story. I think that's the show we had you on. So there you go. All right, hold on. I gotta fix my mic. I'm sorry, I was getting whispers telling me my mic is a little bit lower, but we're gonna turn myself up a bit, so I'm good now. All right, I feel like we're all introduced here. With Kionu, man, Kionu. I'm gonna say that so many times.
Miunih and Ayesha. Let's go.
Ayesa. See, I can get it. I got this.
Oh, okay, you wait. My black mage, right, in the last group was called Ayase, so I cannot say Ayesa without saying Ayase. So if I fuck up, it's Ayase's fault. I'm just saying.
Well, I can't say.
As long as it's not my fault, that's fine.
Oh yeah, I mean
Exactly.
it's your name, but I mean other than that, it's not your fault. I can't say Kyo's name without saying Kionu for some reason. I don't know why. That's like the first time I've ever said that.
Kyo, for sure.
Yeah, Kyo's good. Kyo should work. As long as I don't
get
try
Bach right though.
Yeah, of course I'll get Bach right. Bach's perfect.
It's one friggin' syllable.
All right. So let's go ahead and start this combo up. Let's get discussing this. I'm going to go ahead. I've changed this up. I have a topics guide kind of on the top right-hand side of the screen that I used to do back in the past, and I stopped doing it because it was a little bit of work, but I brought it back because I really, really wanted to for this show. And at the bottom left, you guys might notice I have a very angry-looking white mage, Pepe white mage. And I feel like I'm going to use that whenever someone is going on too much of a rant about how they are upset about white mages. So if you guys go too crazy, I'm going to put it on top of your picture here. So
permanently on stream.
Yes, permanently on the stream though. All right, so let's get into this topic here. I'm going to change our slides over. Today's topic is going to be mostly aimed at white mages. We will be including other healers in the conversation, but white mages are really the focus of the topic. The community's been pinpointing them as, I guess, the worst changed job going into Stormblood. I guess that's the best way to put it. They're complaining about either it's too boring or wondering if they'll even be in any kind of high-end raids, or at least the, I guess, more hardcore raiders, people who focus on the meta. So before we get into the conversation, I do want to talk about the information that we are referring to, which is information that was given out during media events, during the live letters, and I want to focus on how we need to be taking this information. And so whoever wants to answer this first, feel free to go ahead. But do you guys feel like people are kind of overreacting? Come on.
Yo, we need a tumbleweed emote.
A tumbleweed emote? That was... Okay, Miunih talked first. Do you think people are overreacting?
Yo, listen. People are fucking stupid, okay? This build that everything is based on is from April, alright? And people are saying, oh my god, everything is dying. It's like, no, stop. Just wait until Stormblood is out, right? And then we can see like, okay, white mage is okay, AST is like really overpowered. You can say shit like that, right? But if you say that now, it's like, you know, we know what lilies are, which are dumb, but that's about it.
We're starting off strong here. We already have impressions of the Reddit comments. Very good.
It just gets me mad, okay? It's like,
yeah, you know, I think Miunih is the most pro white mage here. Is that true?
All I'm saying is just wait before, like, until you say white mage is dead, before you actually, like, after you actually play the actual game, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Just like don't say like white mage is dead or ASD is overpowered, because this build is like from 2013 or something. Like we don't even know what the actual
2013.
They don't even know.
Okay.
Hey,
Like,
white mage
things
was
are gonna
played in
change.
2013, right?
What?
Well, yeah.
Yeah. White Mage was played. Yeah, you're right. White Mage was in the meta in 2013.
Yeah, because there was no ASD. So
Okay, Bach, what are your thoughts on this, man? Do you think people are kind of overreacting a little bit?
Yes and no. I'm kind of somewhere in the middle.
Mhm.
Yes, Miunih, that's true that, like, you know, what we've seen isn't the finalized version, but I would be very, very, very surprised if it was like truly different, if it was totally different from what we've seen. and I think a lot of the issues surround the new Secret of the Lily mechanic, and I think a lot of the things surrounding the Secret of the Lily mechanic, like a lot of the design choices around it, they can tweak numbers, but I don't think that they're going to change the overall how it works. How do we want to talk about that for a second? The Secret of the Lily? And like,
Yeah, if you want to just go ahead and kind of explain that, yeah, sure.
Okay. So, in simple terms, like basically, as you cast Cure and Cure 2, you start building up stacks. And from my understanding, casting Cure 1 has a 20% chance, and casting Cure 2 has a 100% chance of building a Lily. And Lilies grant you cooldown reduction on the next off GCD heal that you cast, right? And I think that design in general is so broken, and it's so absurd to me. And even though it's not the finalized version, I can't imagine an improved version of that like framework actually working and actually being something that works well. So I think that I think people's reaction to that is generally negative, and I think it's completely warranted.
Can I stop you a sec, Buck, and just ask you to clarify when you say broken? Can you clarify that a bit more, because that has some connotations that could go either way. Like it could be broken good or broken bad.
Okay, broken bad, and I'll explain why here. Okay, so this is the new resource system for White Mage, right? And basically there are multiple angles on why it's broken. First of all, any sort of cooldown reduction, like Spear, for example, like we all agree that Spear sucks as a card, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
of course.
cooldown reduction. The problem with cooldown reduction is, it sounds great because it's like, okay, you have this ability that you can use, and if you reduce the cooldown, now you can use it more often. But the question is, will you use it more often? Because the way healing works in this game is, you're not so much limited by the cooldown, you're also limited by, like for example, an ability like Asylum is kind of an answer to, it's a free AoE healing spell, so you use it in response to the boss doing AoE damage to you. So if you reduce the cooldown on that, you're still going to wait for the AoE damage to happen before you use that Asylum, so it doesn't actually truly grant any benefit. So that's one reason why cooldown reduction sucks. Using Benediction, in conjunction with a Tank Buster or something like that. So if you reduce the cooldown, it's not actually going to make you cast more Benedictions. So that's one reason why cooldown reduction sucks. Second of all, it procs off of Cure and Cure 2 casts, but effective healers minimize how much they want to cast those spells because it's actually the least efficient healing spell. Your regens are the most efficient. Well, that's not true. Your off GCD heals are, they don't cost a GCD and they don't cost you any mana. So that's your first line of defense. And after that, your regen is the next line of defense. Cure and Cure 2 is what you use when all of those more efficient options are exhausted. So, I mean, if the whole mechanic is based on, if it's built on casting lots of Cures and Cure 2s, spells that, effective healers don't really want to cast that often, right? Then that's another reason why it's broken. Third of all, you don't have any control over what cooldown gets reduced. It's just the next thing gets reduced. So it's just like, okay, I want to cast more Assizes.
Yeah.
But I have to cast an Asylum here, and I have 3 stacks. Well, if you cast the Asylum, it blows all your stacks, whether you want to or not. So you don't have control over it, right? So it's just the sum of all of these things combined just makes the mechanics suck. And
Okay.
they can tweak the numbers all they want, change the proc rates, change the amount of cooldown reduction. I don't think it'll change the fact that this mechanic sucks.
Okay, so you're looking at the base information. So your kind of opinion is, hey, they've given us this information, but any way that they change it is not really going to make it better unless if they completely redo the system.
Yeah, unless they come up with like, oh, by the way, the Lily mechanic doesn't do any of these things anymore, and it procs off of all these other things that we previously didn't plan on, like Stone 3s and stuff like that, or Stone 4s, right? Like, unless it's something like that, and unless it does something totally different than cooldown reduction, I just don't see it being a good mechanic.
Yeah, the cooldown reduction is like the big thing. Like this in this game, every fight is so fucking scripted. You don't you don't just randomly use shit, right? You just use it
Mhm.
when you get asked for it, right? Like I use my asylum in a specific way, and I use my tetras in tetras is like different, I guess. But like I use my assays on like specific places in time, right? Even if I have the cooldown reduction, I'm still gonna use it at that time. Like it's I don't know what they were thinking.
Yeah.
Well, it's not exclusively CDR, right? There is something else the lilies do. That's an entire ability is locked behind it. So
Yeah, stone skin.
you can't even use the stone skin unless you use your lilies on it.
Yeah.
It seems a pretty arbitrary decision to lock that behind having at least one lily low. I mean,
Okay. Okay.
may
So
as well just be able to use it for free.
now we're
mean, that
getting
doesn't
into the
have to
concerns a little bit. I feel like we're moving straight into what you guys are really just like heated about. And so I still want to hear because Bach, that was a really good point. So basically, we're going at the fact that people should be kind of upset, and Miunih's like, yeah, people shouldn't be upset. Ayesa, how do you feel?
So it's hard not to be disappointed when you see the new changes. And it's not worth getting caught up in the numbers exactly, as Block was saying, in terms of proc chance and stuff. The system itself for lilies just doesn't seem particularly useful. The confession system is a bit better. Like it's a bit of something. It's not great, and I think to put it in perspective, you look at the abilities that White Mage got for Heavensward and compare them to what we're getting for Stormblood, and there's a pretty huge difference there, I think, in my opinion.
Okay.
You compare, Asai's Asylum, Tetra, and then your two damaging spell upgrades to the Lily system, Confession system, and your Thin Air, which is actually pretty good. It's hard not to be a bit disappointed.
Okay.
Comparatively.
All right, and I'll get Kioni's thoughts here as well. I'm just gonna keep saying it. I'm done. That's who you are now.
That's fine. I'll be
Okay.
CUNY for the stream. I'm with everybody else that I'm a little bit on the disappointed side. I think it's mostly just I've always, balance still being 20% and chain stratagems, being added to the scholar kit as a raid utility bonus, and White Mage getting only self-serving mechanic that enhances their healing exclusively, unless you want to look at the SI's cooldown as being an offensive sort of application of their class mechanic, was just a bit of a letdown for me. I come from speed kills, so I'm from the speed kill atmosphere. I see that as just, man, I want to play White Mage. Obviously, I've mained it in all 3 tiers, but it's sort of not they're not covering a weakness for White Mage. They're sort of enhancing what they did before, which wasn't really in the meta. In a meta where we spend 75% of our time DPSing or more, we don't need our healing enhanced. So it sort of relies on the meta to shift to make that more applicable. But I was going to say, one of the things is just Square Enix has proven that they can make anything viable with numbers. I mean, Astro is sort of the perfect example of that. Was broken in the beginning, and they just are like, throw numbers at it, and now it's mandatory. So
yeah, I mean,
it wasn't just numbers for Astro though. They did add a few mechanical changes in there.
yeah, true. And those things made it, in my opinion, viable for Midas. But when it came to Creator and they buffed suddenly balance, they threw the double balance at it. It was just like, all right, now we're all doing this.
That threw everyone for a loop, I think. The balance increase.
It's similar to like what they've shown they've been willing to do, astronomical buffs to, if you'll forgive the adjective, to Astro's, like knocked Astro's heals, like the changes to the aspect and benefic. It's just, they can just take Stone 4 and buff it up to 400 potency, and suddenly it's like, oh, okay, I guess we're gonna do this now.
Okay, so that makes sense. I mean, like if they wanted to make White Mages like a DPS viable option as well, because I mean, healers will be judged at the end. How much can they kind of put out for damage, and how much damage can they reduce at the same time to get the most damage possible? They could just make them really powerful with their stones and everything else, all their offense abilities, right? They just have to buff the numbers.
They could.
So I guess like the sad part about all of this too is, do you think, seeing kind of this early information, do we expect things to be broken at start of the expansion, something's going to be broken, right? Just at
I think
one job at least.
I think broken is a bad word.
Well, I mean, that's what Astro
that
was,
suggests
right?
that it's not going to work.
Let's replace that
Yes,
word
well,
with fundamentally flawed. I
Okay.
think it's fundamentally flawed.
Astro on Heavensward release was
Can we say fucked?
pretty bad.
I mean, like,
I feel like it's just a stronger way of saying broken.
yeah, okay. So we're gonna say White Mage is going to be flawed. Do we think that it's going to be pretty flawed from seeing what we have now and our understanding of how Square Enix works versus what information we have, what people have said, and what the product will be at the very beginning of the expansion? Because I think a lot of us have kind of seen that whole transition with the new jobs they introduced with Dark Knight, Astro, and everything, and all the other different jobs that they had, the changes they made going into Heavensward. Bach, I know you kind of skipped that part, right?
Yeah, I never got to witness the dumpster fire that was Astro on release, but I've heard horror stories.
Mhm.
I've heard horror stories. Now, I don't know if we're ready to move on from the point of the lilies. Like I honestly don't think it'll change that much. I don't think it'll change that much because
Okay.
they would have to completely revamp the entire mechanic. And if they release the details of it, like even if it's just preliminary details from
Mhm.
April, if they release that to us like recently, I don't think that they're going to completely revamp it because that takes a lot of work.
Mhm.
And I think if we're gonna see that mechanic improve, it's gonna be something like 4.1. So
Okay.
that's kind of what we're looking at here. That's just my opinion. I mean, I don't know what's happening behind the scenes with SE.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of job changes they're doing right now, too. So there's a lot of things going on. I mean, if we look back at Warrior with 2.0, it was screwed. No one liked it.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Yeah.
And you know, I have a point for that, but that might have to wait later. That might be a topic
Okay.
later. But so we'll maybe put that in the back burner. But
Sure.
to be honest, when it comes to the Lily mechanic, I think that's what most people are most upset about, because when they showed like some stuff about White Mage, it's like, oh cool, they have this new resource system. This seems really interesting. I hope this really improves White Mage, because White Mage didn't have a place in the meta, like currently in 3.4, right? It was kind of outclassed by Astro and Scholar. So a lot of people are just like, oh, this new mechanic might be what pushes White Mage back in the meta. White Mage is making a comeback, and I was personally really excited about it. Even though I've never really made White Mage, I just, stuff like that interests me. And when they release, like, even though it's just preliminary details, I'm just like, what? Really? This is what the stupid flowers do? This is like really stupid. This is like and I was upset. I was genuinely upset. And I'm not even a White Mage main, so I can't even imagine what White Mage loyalists must feel. And I like, even if they change it, I can't see them like making it good without completely revamping it, right? So
Right.
I'm not very optimistic about White Mage that mechanic in general, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not very optimistic about it on launch.
So let's do this. I mean, we went over kind of early info stuff. I guess we can jump into concerns, because I feel like the concerns is going to be like the biggest topic here. And we need to kind of hit that probably pretty hard. But in our whole summary of everything, most of you guys feel like people are not completely overreacting. Some people are definitely overreacting way more than they should. But there is valid concern out there. Miunih, though. Miunih's like, screw you guys. They're fine. Just want to make sure. That's what we
No, that's not what I meant. Okay, I meant like you should be pissed about the lilies because it's like a dumb mechanic which doesn't fit with the game.
Mm-hmm.
But like what I'm saying is just don't be so quick to judge because you don't really know.
Okay.
Like, not even the final numbers. Right? Like just play the game first, play how it feels. Like, and then after like a week or two, when the raid comes out, you can say like, okay, this really sucks. Like Square Enix is actually fucking retarded. You know, like.
Okay.
But now you can just say like, okay, it looks bad, but maybe it's not as bad as we think it is.
You know, it's really strange to hear you say that, Miunih. For some reason, I expected you, of all people, to pretty much just make a huge shitstorm.
This is my final hope.
Okay.
I need to believe.
Okay.
Wait a minute. I remember Miunih defending Astro back in Gordius quite a bit too.
Really?
So.
Yo, okay, no, oh my god, we actually tried Astro, right? When we were in A3S, like I was I was convinced Astra was good, right? I saw the buffs of balance. I was like, this is the good shit, right? And then we got stuck in A3 and Astra like, I don't know, a few days, right? And we got to the point. I think it was the hands, and we didn't have enough DPS, right? So I told Sin, which was my co-healer, like, yo, you should try AST. And I think we did like 2 pulls, and we said like, nah, never mind, this is shit. And we just went straight back to like Scholar White Mage. So ever since then, I was like, nah, White Mage is trash. And,
I got
they
you.
held our shit and they buffed it. So,
Okay.
but yeah, I did believe in AST in the beginning, just as I believe in White Mage.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people are wrong about certain things. For example, I thought Machinist was great at the beginning of Gordius, but no one else, I think, really supported Machinist. And then they buffed him and made him like overly great.
And it's the same thing with Dark Knight. Like at the beginning of 3.0, people said Dark Knight sucks. Everyone hated Dark Knight, like with passion. On Reddit, Dark Knight is dead. It wasn't even out yet until we used it in A3S, and people were like, "It's not as bad as we thought it was." Like, okay, dude.
Oh my God, Miunih, you gotta keep the impressions up.
I'm telling you, it's gonna be the same with White Mage. I'm gonna prove White Mage is good,
Okay.
and people like maybe not use it in the way it's intended to be, right? That's all I'm saying.
All right. By the way, everybody watching the show, please ask your questions. We do have Karara in the chat collecting questions, and we will try to ask them maybe throughout the show if they're like really, really valid towards what we're talking about. But we usually save them for the end of the show. But ask away in chat, and I will try to keep up with them, and Kerr will be adding those to our document here. So let's go ahead and go into what everybody wants to talk about, the concerns about why people are upset. And I want to talk about the valid concerns, because there probably are some invalid concerns out there, but I want to focus on what we really want to focus on, which is stuff like lilies, right? Is that pretty much the topic that everyone is really talking about? Is just the lily system?
Yeah, man. Number one complaint, and it's just not, and can I make another point about the lilies? Like,
Yeah.
Let's just put aside the fact. Let's just put aside the fact for a second that the lily mechanic sucks. Let's just set that aside. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I don't like, the thing that probably bugs me the most about the lily system, has nothing to do with how strong or weak it is. It is about how non-interactive it is. So if you compare this to, say, cards, Astro cards, you're making decisions constantly. When to use the cards, which card to use, when are you drawing, when do you draw, redraw, Royal Road. Like, these are decisions to be made. And yeah, sure, to some extent, people have it figured out and can kind of make a flow chart. But the fact that a flow chart exists, goes to show that there are some decisions to be made. Scholar, a little less in depth with Etherflow stacks, but with the Etherflow stacks, you still have to manage that to some extent. It's just like, I need to save a stack for Indom here, and I need to save a stack for Bane here. So I need to limit how many energy drains I use. And maybe there's a pressure point with the tanks up here where I might want to lustrate, right? And there's some degree, or like, Sacred Soil. So there's some degree of decision making there. That's interactive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at the lily mechanic. How do you generate lilies? You passively generate it by casting cures. It just happens. And then how do you consume it? You use off GCDs, and it just consumes it passively. It feels like there's some extent of interaction where you could sequence your heals a certain way so that, okay, I might want my Asylum coming up 9 seconds earlier or some shit. And so then you might cast two Cure 2s to make sure you have 2 lilies, and then you do it. And that's kind of like limited to how much damage the boss does, because if no one's damaged, why are you casting Cure 2s for lilies? That's stupid, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I just feel like the mechanic is not fun because it's non-interactive. You're passively generating lilies, you're passively using lilies, unlike cards where you're actively making decisions, and the decisions matter, and your knowledge and your skill with the job, it's rewarding because it makes you more effective at it. But with lilies, there's just not a lot of play around it. And when you do use it like intelligently, the payoff is so tiny because all you get is cooldown reduction. So I just feel like it's not fun. So never mind the fact that it sucks. It's just, it doesn't seem fun.
Okay.
And I just can't see it being fun.
All right, Miunih, do you have any thoughts kind of against that or for that, or?
Yeah, kind of. Like the lily's not interactive is like a really good point, right? Because
Mhm.
you just you want to play the game, you don't want the game to play you, and this is literally what happens with White Mage. Like the
Mhm.
game just makes decisions for you, and it's like, okay, thanks for the 4% cooldown. That's exactly what I just asked for. Game things. Like you don't want those kind of decisions, right? Or like situations.
Mhm.
But
I mean, like the
it's
one thing that I want
yeah.
to just throw in there is so when you're playing and you're healing, basically it means you have to plan out when you're going to hit a cure too. Cure
Yeah.
is going to throw things off. I would say you would never even use cure at this point, right? Because if you accidentally get a lily, then your planning goes out the window. Is that true, or am I an idiot for saying that?
Not necessarily. It doesn't
No.
negatively impact your ability if you have an extra lily. Like your cooldown just comes up earlier. Like it's not bad in any way if you have an extra one.
Okay, so it's not a bad thing to get 3 at some point. But
No,
I mean,
you will cast that cure regardless, right? Because you plan for it most of the time, right? So you get the lily regardless. If you have 3 lilies, and you just cast a cure 2 anyway, so you just get 3 lilies. Like it doesn't matter.
okay, I feel like because for some reason I feel like I'm trying to make sure I understand the mechanic properly because I don't play White Mage at all, and I haven't looked really deep into White Mage other than the fact that from what I understand, those lilies get consumed automatically when you use the ability.
Yes, this is my main point about it, right? You cannot decide when you use them. If you use an O of global cooldown,
Mm-hmm.
it just happens. You can't choose it. You can't say no. I do not want to use lilies on this global cooldown. You're gonna use it anyway. If I need to tetra someone in an emergency and I lose my lilies because of that, I will be fucking pissed.
So I mean, these
Like-
abilities you can use without the lilies; they just don't have as much of an impact.
Just less
Oh,
less cooldown.
yeah.
Less cooldown, so it's all
But,
just
like
cooldowns.
if I plan for like a fight, right? Let's take A4S for an example, right? Because it's a really good healer fight.
Mhm.
Mechanics aside, but like if I needed to use my my Asais there, right? If I had lilies, I would probably like switch my Asais to like a different point in time where I would use it always there. But if it was an emergency, but I had to heal someone with Tetra and I lost all my lilies and I couldn't use my Asais where I wanted to, that's a problem because the game basically decides what ability I use my lilies on, and that's why I don't like it.
So you basically no longer have control over your lilies
Yes.
when an emergency arises.
So I mean,
Yeah, exactly. The lack
okay.
of control is a major flaw, both
Yeah,
in
and in
terms of
proc,
business and in terms of fun, right?
yes, and in actual proc, especially world proc, and I'm really looking at the world proc point of view. If you don't have control over your class, like why would you play it? Like everything is planned.
Wait a second. So, posing this question to the rest of you, if there was an ability you could push, just one button, that would activate your lilies, like it would make it so your lilies would work on the next ability, so you
Yes.
could bank them, would that completely change the interactivity and make it a good mechanic?
Like what's it called?
Like a dark
Dark
knight,
arts,
yeah.
like a dark arts.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I would like it more then. Yeah.
I mean, is that a fix? Bach, do you
It's
think?
not a fix because CD reduction is dumb as fuck.
Yeah,
but-
yeah, cooldown reduction still sucks, but like
Okay.
an idea I had was, and I'm not sure what the logistics are. Like, I'm not a coder. I don't know anything about programming. But an idea I had was like to consume your lilies instead of it happening passively. What you can do is if you hit the hotkey for a button for an ability that's already on cooldown, by like let's just suppose you use benediction, it's 3 minutes cooldown. It's been a minute, so now it's 2 minutes left on cooldown. And you use lilies. If you press the benediction button, it'll consume your lilies and then reduce the cooldown on the button you just pressed by X seconds, depending on how many lilies you have. That's another avenue that they could have. Like, I really like the concept of cooldown reduction because
That's how Spare should have worked, honestly.
yeah. Like
That's how I
totally
thought
Spare
Spare
should
would
have
work.
worked. But like, so that way you can actively choose and you could do it on the fly, right? It's just like, okay, a size is coming up. A size is, I kind of want it soon now, and I don't need this Tetra, so I'm just going to reduce the cooldown on a size by pressing a size while it's on cooldown, and it reduces the cooldown, and then you tap it again to activate the size. Like, I think that'd be cool. I do like the fact that they're exploring cooldown reduction, and part of me feels that it doesn't really fit in this game, but I still want them to explore it because I think it's a cool
I mean, if you can have planned cooldown reduction, that's good,
yeah,
right? But it has to be like planned. Like you have to say
Yeah.
this move's going to be cooldown or on less of a cooldown going forward. And
You
I
have to
know,
have- You have to have complete control over it.
Yeah.
The cooldown reduction is useless if you don't have complete control over it.
which is spear. And so it makes it completely worthless if you throw it on something and you're like, well, is it going to help me here? Half the time you don't know, because you don't plan for it, right?
Yeah, that's the problem. You use a spear, and often if you just use it without telling someone, they get zero benefit out of it because they don't pop cooldowns within that window because they don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
It feels bad to use an entire card and have it not be utilized even once.
Okay. Yeah. So you haven't said a lot here, and I feel like I need to bring you up to the front here. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on all this?
Right. So about what Kionu proposed, where you could say bank three lilies and then pop them when you want. I think such a system would just go over the heads of most players, not wanting to sound like an elitist, but to plan out something like that where like, if I use this on this size, then I'll get an extra size at a point where it's useful in the fight. That's quite in-depth planning in the grand scheme of things. If you understand what I mean.
Right. So I mean, I will
it's fairly
add to
minor
that.
cooldown reduction, right? So it's 20% if you have 3 lilies, 10% with 2 lilies, and 4% with 1 lily. So 20% cooldown reduction on something with a minute cooldown is not that significant. So
I mean, that can be
at
pretty
least in
significant.
terms of it depends on what kind of fights you're in. Like in Creator, you have a lot of time between AoE damage to heal people up, so using it on a size or Asylum's probably not going to get you much. Like having it 10 seconds later is not gonna make or break things in a lot of situations. So I think that a lot of people would struggle to use that properly or effectively without wanting to sound like a dick.
Well, I mean, here's the other thing that like I've always kind of kept this in the back of my mind is that Square Enix has some jobs that I think they intentionally make them easier to play than other jobs. For example, I always thought that Paladin was easier to play, especially during Heaven's Ward and A Realm Reborn, than Warrior. And then Dark Knight would be probably towards the end of the most difficult to play. I don't know if you guys would agree with that at all, Bach. You have experience with it, but would you say that like Square Enix kind of sometimes does that? They make a job easy?
Yeah, I think so. And not only that, the fact that that they want to make it easy, but they also want to cater to different playstyles. Like at the end of the day, like not every job could be powerful, and not every job could be meta, right? And that's okay. That's okay, because I know there are a lot of healers out there who want to be pure healers and focus less on damage, and they may not care about having the fastest kill, particularly within the JP community. Like from my understanding, sometimes it's frowned upon to have both healers and cleric stance at the same time because they're less DPS conscious than Western players. And I think a lot of players like to play that playstyle, and White Mage, it seems like the design of White Mage kind of wants to cater to that playstyle. And to SE, from a game design perspective, that might be more important to them than having 3 classes that speedrunners want to play, right? Or like 3 classes that contribute a ton to damage. Maybe having that variety, and it might not be as mathematically optimal as running Astral Scholar for every single raid group, but a lot of people want to play that playstyle, and maybe White Mage kind of fulfills that niche. So there's that too. But like kind of going back to what you said, if they want to make a class easy, and also in addition to that, they want a class that represents a different type of playstyle, then I think that's totally okay. For them to do that, and I'm totally okay with not having 3 equally perfectly balanced jobs for every such situation, right?
I mean, it's going to be impossible.
It's literally impossible.
Yeah, because someone's going to find a number higher one way than they are going to find it another way.
It's 1% better, 5% better. The top speedrunners are going to find what's optimal, and people will flock to it. And that's not going to change no matter how balanced the classes are. There's always going to be, you got 3 choices and you have to choose 2 of them. There's going to be 2 choices that are better than the third choice. So that's just the bottom line.
Yeah.
But like, let's say we go back to patch 3.35.
Mm-hmm.
or Astro and White Mage. You know, those iterations of the jobs. Would you say that one was inherently a lot better than the other, or would you say that they were pretty
They were so close.
pretty well matched?
They were really well matched. Yeah. And,
Yeah, I don't
that's
understand
I agree.
why Square Enix decided to buff balance. Like, it still makes no sense to this day. Like, I think at that point the healers were fine, they were balanced. Every option was basically fine. Like, but they boosted balance to such a stupid degree. It just made everything but AST that kind of shit.
Yeah. I got a question I'm going to pull here from the chat from Kyoka Star. It's kind of relevant to what we're talking about. Do you guys feel like White Mage has been given less interesting tools because Square Enix has it as a healer for players to learn to heal with?
No.
No?
No,
Okay.
I don't think so. I think if you learn, like, any player that wants to learn, like, basically has to level the class, right? And you just,
Mm-hmm.
unless you bot or like Fate, like, you'll learn the class anyway. So I don't think so. Maybe in endgame, like, I wouldn't even say like White Mage is the easiest. I think Scholar is the easiest to learn, and White Mage is maybe the easiest to master. But like, no, I don't know. I don't think that's their mindset at all. I think their mindset is just they wanted to have one pure healer, like, they concentrated on only healing and healing alone, and then have AST for like the buffing, super damage, and then Scholar to be like the shield and damage.
Okay. You guys all kind of feel that way, that Square Enix doesn't really create jobs for people to learn how to do something with. They don't have like entry jobs. They just have some that are a little bit easier than others.
Personally, I think that having varying difficulty varying difficulty levels is definitely something that they do, because maybe I'm on my own island here, but like in Heavensward, I felt that Machinist was one of the more complicated DPS classes, and I felt that Astro was one of the more complicated healing classes, and I felt that Dark Knight was one of the more complicated, like relatively complicated tanking classes, and those are the three new jobs, and you have to be level 50 to even unlock them in the first place. So that tells me that SE is conscious of the relative difficulty level of each respective class, and so I'm actually on board with what Kyoko said. That maybe White Mage is maybe not to a large extent, but it is designed to be a simpler class, because say if you're to compare White Mage to Astro, for instance, their kits are really similar. Like, especially if you compare Diurnal Astro with White Mage, their kits are really similar. You have a regen, you have a AoE regen, you have your instant cast OGCD heal, EDIG and Tetra, and then you have their kits are extremely similar. And then you look at what makes them different. Astro, you have cards. That's another thing to manage. That's another thing that complicates your job. Who to give cards to, blah 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 blah. Nothing to manage. And then you look at White Mage. You have a lot of things that make your job more convenient. You have Benediction. You have Asylum. You have Assize. These are things that make your job easier. Where Astro, you have things that make your job more difficult to manage. So that tells me, from a game design perspective, that they are conscious about the varying difficulty levels of jobs, and that could be the case.
I think this is going to be Bach versus Miunih here. That's what it's looking like. I'm excited about it.
I'm actually on Bach's side with this, where I think that White Mage is designed like fundamentally in a more simplistic way. Like, it doesn't have all the extra class mechanics. I think that a lot of people get really overwhelmed by fairy management, as an example. A lot of new scholars just simply leave their fairy on sick. They just don't want to manage it. And it's intimidating with all the buttons. I've had many people complain about how many buttons Scholar has on their hotbar. It's just difficult to bind everything and be able to use it effectively. So yeah, I think White Mage was designed much more simply. You're not overloaded with things, and your DPS rotations are usually really, really simple. Offense and AoE, nothing complicated. I don't know. Okay. I agree that it's more of the learning, but I don't think that excuses the UI from the Lily mechanic still.
Oh well, yeah.
Having no interaction.
Okay. Ayesa?
Well, Conjure is the only healer that starts out at level 1.
It's true.
So Conjure becoming White Mage It seems like if you want to be a healer from the start, it's the job you pick up.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe you transition to Scholar at level 30.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense too. I'm gonna be honest, I don't think it makes sense that they don't have 2 healers to start with. That kind of irritates me because they need to have Scholar accessed as a healer. I think at the very beginning of the game somehow.
Yeah, they should never have made Scholar and Summoner like the same.
I mean, and that's just a design flaw in the game itself.
Like,
Because they have 2 tanks to start with, but if you want to heal, you're like, hey, I want to be a healer with my friends. You have to pick White Mage to start out if you're going to play with people and heal. And I think that's absolutely ridiculous. And hopefully that's something that they fix going forward in the future sometime. But that's just a whole nother side point here. And, you know, when we're talking about lilies and we're talking about trying to make things more complicated, and White Mage being more of a simplistic job overall, do you think, Kyo, you kind of were highlighting a point that if they go out and they make, actually I think that's Ayesa, you made this point, if they made it more complicated for White Mages or more control, they gave them decisions to make, that would be too hard for most of the majority of players out there? Or do you think that's just...
Okay, so in general, giving people more choices is not going to make it too hard for them. I think just specifically the example of cooldown reduction requires a lot of fight knowledge that players may or may not have. And I think typically, maybe this is an overly broad statement, but typically people who are still playing White Mage aren't those who plan out fights
I mean, that's...
so intensely as people who play Scholar or Astra.
I mean, that's actually not a bad point. If you're playing White Mage, it'd be very good for things that aren't planned out. I mean, you're kind of reacting, right? But then again, you don't have that reaction choice kind of with the lilies either. You just kind of get stuff and you just use abilities. You don't even think about the lilies. Maybe that's the point, right? It's a mechanic you don't have to think about.
yeah, but
When I've considered the Lily system, that's kind of how I envisioned it. It's if you don't know what you're getting into, then maybe the Lily system seems good because you're getting cooldown reduction on all these off GCDs that you're using.
Okay.
But realistically, when you plan it out, you realize that the cooldown reduction is probably not necessary, and in many situations is too minor to even be of use.
Okay.
But hey, it could be good in PvP.
Yeah. Box going to town on chat, man. You're beating him up, dude.
Oh, not really.
But yeah, my last thought on the Lily system is basically that it's going to be something that's there, but you'll spend the majority of your time as White Mage just ignoring it. Unless there's a specific situation where you can benefit from having an extra size a little bit earlier, I don't think you'll ever bother. So it's just something that's there and you'll probably never notice. So White Mage is, in that sense, not going to change that much in playstyle.
We got a couple of questions here about lilies too. If you guys want to go into more about lilies, or you guys think that we bashed it enough here.
Well, I just wanted to add on to what Ayesa was saying there.
Sure.
Is I'm actually worried that not paying attention to my lilies is going to lock me out of Divine Benison when I want it. You know what I mean? Like, you
That's a good point, actually.
And not paying attention to your lilies, and then suddenly you need the stone skin for something, and it's locked out because you're out of lilies. It's just like, damn it.
I think if that's the case, like, then you almost just have to use Divine Benison as like a bonus, not something you depend on. It's just like, I'm going to use this as an alternative to cure, right?
Well, it's like I see
the flavor of Tetra, right, or something like that. I don't know.
I see using Divine Benison as much more value than getting 8 seconds off cooldown on my other abilities. Like, I get access to an entire GCD basically, like 15% stone skin off global, versus taking a small fraction off my other skills. Like, I'd rather not miss Divine Benison. As just in terms of
let me play the stupid.
No
I'll play the stupid guy right now. For those that are watching and they don't understand what that ability does and how it works, can you explain that, Kyo?
So it's like off global stone skin, 60-second cooldown, requires you to have at least 1 lily and consumes all of your lilies. So if you don't have lilies, you can't use this ability, and it is a stone skin. off global. So it adds on to your other repertoire of off globals that do healing applications, although it's just a stones gets preventative. It serves a similar purpose. You know, you have several of them now. You have Benediction, you have Tetra, you have potentially Plenary Indulgence if there's Confession stacks, and then you have Benison now as a stone skit. So you have all these things you can use off global instead of wasting a full GCD on a heal or DPS. You can just throw this thing out there. And losing an entire part of your toolkit to not managing your lily stacks is actually punishing. So the only result of the mechanic ends up being something that's punishing, and I don't like that. It's either non-interactive or punishing. It's not. It's rare. It's going to be rare in my eyes looking at the mechanic on paper to feel good about the lily mechanic after while it's going on. Just punish.
Okay. All right. Let me ask this question about lilies here. Roland and Fuller laughing Baku. I know it hasn't been entertaining or isn't that entertaining, but do you think that they could change the lilies to boost target heal damage passively for a couple seconds? It allows White Mage to be a pure healer while still giving it the party that extra damage.
Wait, what? I did not understand that.
Okay. Do you think they could change lilies to boost target heal damage passively for a couple of seconds?
What do you mean? Like, if you use the ability on someone, it boosts their damage?
Let's see. Boost target heal damage passively for a couple.
Like a damage
That's a weird
steroid?
sentence, dude. Like, I don't know.
Is that an either or? It boosts the next
I
heal
feel
or
like
damage.
it's something
spell?
that would be so clunky because it's just like, hey, I want to boost this machinist damage for his wildfire. He's at full HP, but I'm just gonna cure 2.
Oh, yeah. I get it. So you heal them and they start doing more damage.
It feels
I
like...
feel like so unintuitive that, like, you know, I think if anything that would confuse the shit out of white mages, because like, do I heal this guy who's like, it's like when it becomes correct to heal someone at full HP to give them a damage buff, I feel like something like that is kind of like janky design.
Okay. All right. Let's go into Andros
But,
stats.
you
Go
know,
ahead.
Sorry, but you know, this kind of brings back to a point that Kyo mentioned before, is like, if you ask me what are the two main flaws with from what we've seen of Stormblood White Mage, the two main flaws is Lily mechanic sucks and they lack damage utility. So they could kind of solve that, you know, two birds with one stone if the Lily mechanic had some degree of damage utility, right?
Yeah.
That's two birds with one stone, because yeah, those are the two main flaws. You know, Lily mechanic sucks, and if you ask me what is the worst thing about white mage, like the simplest, and this might sound kind of dumb, but the simplest way I could put it, the worst thing about white mage is it's not Astro or Scholar. That's the worst thing about white mage.
So I'm going to just this goes kind of into comparing, but I'm just going to throw it out here because it's relevant to what you're talking about. Salted Levity asked, why did Scholar get a Litany Trick attack skill, and do you think that should have gone to White Mage?
Oh, fuck if I know. Of course it should have gone to white mage.
No, I think White Mage should have got like a spell speed one, but yeah, like why White Mage doesn't get any like buffing thing is beyond me.
Mm-hmm.
Like they all have it, right? Like ASD obviously cards like
Yeah.
Scholar has a lot of damage and dodge and has their litany now for God knows what reason. And White Mage has stone.
So I guess
Like-
here's another question. Do you feel like maybe White Mage is going to be one of those healers that like, oh, I just heal a whole lot and a crap ton, and they will possibly go into a meta of one healer with White Mage? Or is that like nowhere even
I
close?
was actually thinking of that because I saw like the White Mage, right, and was like, oh my god, this is so overpowered. That was like my first thought. Like, this is so much healing. I don't even know what to do with all this healing. And then it came to me like, what if they actually intended? This would be a stupid decision. But what if they intended like White Mage to solo heal content and then just have the other healer go either full damage or just get like another machinist or red mage or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I look at that way, even the CD reduction is stupid, but like the confession system actually makes a lot more sense then. And like all the healing, the extra healing, like the confession system is pretty good actually, but like it just makes more sense.
What do you guys think, Bach?
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea.
Kind of go solo heal White Mage?
But you know, I don't like the fact that I don't like that concept, to be honest. I don't like the concept I don't like the concept of them pushing solo healer, and I actually don't really think that White Mage's healing output really outclasses Astro and Scholar that much outside of like AoE healing. So I don't think I don't know, I both from a game design perspective and like a tactical perspective, I don't really like that. And you know, the thing is, in Prague, you know, Astro dies, Scholar reses, Scholar dies, Astro reses. But if you just have one White Mage, that just seems like a can of worms, or it just seems like
I don't think it's
such a huge risk that it wouldn't warrant, you know, employing the strategy.
Okay.
It's cute, but
it's cute.
Like
It's
maybe-
adorable.
Like on farm content, you would do it. Like if you farm Ravana, like I like to go solo heal because otherwise I just get bored out of my mind, right? But like for proc, you wouldn't ever take one healer. That just makes no sense.
I'd rather just solo heal. If that's the case, I just should solo heal with a Scholar, and have straight chain stratagem, right? And more damage output.
Yeah, I just prefer White Mage.
Okay. Kionu, Ayesa, what are your thoughts on this? Both of
Wait,
you
now
guys.
you're calling me Kionu.
Yeah, no, I'm calling you both at the same time. I'm going to say whoever speaks first wins, though.
All right, well, I'm going to say that
Okay.
you can't look at this White Mage and ever think that it's going to solo heal anything in a realistic item level, like progression item level, or even before your max item level. And that's because it just has no mitigation. Doesn't have soil, doesn't have collective unconscious, and its only shield is Divine Benison, which is a single target on a 60-second cooldown. So it's not gonna, you can't out heal the kind of damage you'll see on fights with one healer without any form of mitigation.
Well, I mean, you got Paladin with his wings,
and-
right?
And the other thing is that its heals aren't considerably stronger than Astrologians.
Okay.
Especially not if Astro is seeing a healing magic buff on their Diurnal Sect, which it seems like it might be. So in the media tour, the NA media tour, we saw it 15%, and then some other tooltips, Japanese tooltips came out, and it's a 10% healing increase. And for White Mage, they've buffed the potency of Cure and Cure 2 by 50, but it still means that Astra is on the same level with its Benefics, and its Helios and stuff are stronger. So
Yeah, but like
the only
if you're
situation
soloing-
where White Mage is going to out heal the Astro is if you have to just spam Cure 3.
Hmm.
Yep.
Well-
Sheer white AoE healing output. White Mage is still the king.
And the other thing is
I don't
that
know.
Divine Seal is nerfed, well gone, but there's a new version, Large S, which is essentially Divine Seal but worse. It's the version that Astro has but split off from Sinistry. So White Mage as a solo healer is a lot weaker because you don't have Divine Seal on a 60-second cooldown anymore. It's on a 90-second cooldown and it's weaker.
Okay. All right, Miunih, you're trying to get a point in there.
Yes. Okay. So, like a lot of people seem to forget, and I really, really like this mechanic, is the confession mechanic, right? If you're solo healing, you're gonna use way more Cure 1s and Cure 2s because just the fight asks for it, right? You don't have a fairy, you don't have like regions sticking everywhere. And you're gonna have confession stacks and thing. And the one thing I really like about this White Mage is that confession stack. You get like a 15-second AoE-ish tetra, which you use basically on high value targets, which is honestly both tanks and anyone who gets like a mechanic thing like Prey or whatever, right? So I think White Mage does a lot more healing than you think when it solo heals, purely because of you would use your AoE super confession tetra on cooldown. And I don't know if it works with lilies. I don't think it does actually. But that's a lot of fucking healing.
The Confession's not an AoE heal though.
No,
It's a
I know,
single
but
target
you
heal.
yeah, exactly. But you always it's like an AoE. It's basically a heal on everyone who has confession, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so like
When are you gonna
always a
place
high value
confession
stack.
stacks on like multiple targets?
He was saying like on praise or something. You might cast one
Exactly.
or two on someone else.
Maybe if you get a proc, yeah, maybe.
And I'm convinced they're gonna change the pork because that's dumb as hell. But yeah, like I think aside from lilies, White Mage does more output than you would think. Like it already outclasses in pure healing ASD and Scholar, but I think it does actually more than you would think it does, purely because of the confessions. And I'm convinced they're gonna buff the confessions because it's not a bad system.
Okay.
Yeah, the confession system is going to hinge on what the proc chance is. The Lily system, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
It's, fundamentally garbage. But yeah, the confession system could be made a lot stronger based on the proc chance.
So we've changed from fundamentally flawed to fundamentally garbage. Right?
Yeah.
Well,
Kyo, I haven't heard from you for a second. You got any thoughts?
Well, I mean, I don't know what to say that hasn't already been said. I
Okay.
agree pretty much, except that Astro sort of is just taken over as the king of the single target heal GCD over White Mage, which is sort of weird to me. But
Mm-hmm.
in terms of healing throughput, I still think Astro can. Outside of cooldowns, they put out a ridiculous amount of, like, if a tank is just getting chain bustered for huge amounts of hits, like, I don't know, like a Bahamut's Clock kind of thing from T9, those aspected benefit single targets are going to be doing work, 900 potency if you were to have a knocked Astro around, which is just sort of a weird thing we haven't had before. But I agree with Miunih though. Sorry, say again?
Not to mention Sinistry and how powerful that is for a single target heal.
Sinistry is insane.
It's
Like,
insane. Yeah.
Sinistry largesse
It's
together.
still
Yeah.
insane with the chain. And they separate it from the healing steroid, and if anything, that makes it stronger, right?
Exactly, because you can choose when you
You
use
can
it.
choose it now. Yeah.
You couldn't always choose. I always fucking hated it about ASD. Like, if I wanted to split healing, I had to pop my Divine Seal or whatever it's called, right? And now I don't even have to, so I can do whatever I want.
I'm going to ask this question from Androstus. I think that's how you said 11. He said, I feel like everyone is also really focused on the Lily stuff, ignoring that, like, all the cross-class healer skill that were White Mage skills were given to the other classes, but they didn't get anything back in return.
oh man, I wanted to talk about this, but we got caught up in the Lily discussion.
We can hit
But
it.
yeah, White Mage has really been shafted by the roll action system. So the important note is that six of White Mage's sort of utilities are being moved into the roll action system, which is more than the other healers. So Astro is losing 4 and Scholar is losing 2. And then a couple of Thaumaturge abilities are being moved in there as well. But the issue is that six White Mage, 6 actions that were part of White Mage's kit inherently. So Cleric, Stance, Protect, Asuna, Shroud of Saints, Divine Seal, and this is grasping at straws, but the heavy effect from Stone 1, since you'll no longer be able to cast that since it's automatically upgraded. That's all being moved into roll actions, which means that the cross-class skills that you could previously take as a White Mage, you're going to lose those as well if you want to buy back the stuff that you previously had.
Right.
So, like, if you play White Mage at the moment, you have Swiftcast, Eye for an Eye, Surecast, an Untalented Virus, and then the last slot is kind of useless, but potentially you could have Blizzard 2 before you get Holy, or Ruin if you're really worried about mana consumption.
Yo, Physic.
Or Physic if you want to have something completely useless and not cast your Cure and get your
The Lily.
Yeah,
get your Lilies. I guess that would make you an extreme rebel. You're
Yeah.
casting Physic instead of Cure.
Uh,
So yeah, White Mage is being hit really hard here because they can't even buy back everything that they previously had, and stuff like Swiftcast is really useful.
Okay. So, Kyo, what do you feel about this, man?
Well, I mean, every class sort of already had its own Asuna, and I think some of that stuff is like, we all had that. But some of the stuff like Largesse going to Scholar is really interesting. But yeah, I mean, most of the role-specific actions are White Mage stuff. Just in general, it's stuff that used to be unique to White Mage, but we all sort of had it anyway. Like Protect was cross-classed anyway; everyone had it. Asuna was, we had Leeches and we had Exalted Detriment. Those who had, Eye for Eye going to Astros sort of like,
Okay.
But I do agree that like they have to buy back their kit, stuff that was inherent to it, and they're not really getting anything new in exchange for it, which is, yeah, that feels bad.
So I got another question about this too. When we talk about protect, I mean, we all kind of had it, but now you need to buy it in your kit. Are there going to be fights about which healer has to get protect?
Yo, Ford is getting protect. I'm not getting it. I'm just saying.
I think the
I'm
scholar
taking
will have
my
to
life
take
for
it.
Scholar?
It makes the most sense for the scholar to take it, I think.
Okay. Bach, what are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, it makes more sense for the scholar too, and I don't know if this is your reasoning too, but scholars MP economy is better. So if there's one person to cast protect, it's gonna be the scholar.
I think I'm correct in saying that from what we've seen, protect no longer has an MP cost.
Oh, okay.
But
Wait, what?
the scholar's probably the one who's going to be rezzing anyway.
Yeah, that's true too.
Okay. So, is there any other like conflicts there? Like, if you go into a raid, someone has to decide what healer is going to take the hit and getting
Yes,
what
it's going to
ability.
be annoying. If you need Asuna as well, that's going to be a pain. But my logic for why the scholar would most likely take it is that they are reliant on fewer of the cross-class skills. Like this might change, but you wouldn't, in the current state of things, assume that they need large S, whereas White Mage and Astro need that as part of their kit, in my opinion. So you have that extra slot of flexibility.
Okay.
To add about that, like when it comes to the dynamics of who gets what, to be honest, like to me, this might seem like kind of like a kumbaya answer, but it's like the way I see it is, I think that's so superficial, like who gets what. I think it's so superficial because the way I see it is like each of my abilities, they're not my abilities, they belong to the team. So every spell I cast, every GCD, every ability I have belongs to the team. I'm just the one in control of it. So it doesn't matter, hey, I don't want to get protect. No, I don't want to get protect. It's whatever. Like
Yo, listen.
Bach, you sound like someone who doesn't look at FF logs. And look at your.
I don't know. Like as much as I care about trying to get a good stuff.
I'm just kidding. Yeah.
It's a team thing, right? So it's a team thing.
I love you, Bach. That is the right answer. Perfect. It's the same thing with like not using the mentality of main tank and off tank and all the other stuff. And so you're right. It's superficial, but when you go into like a party finder, you need to have that discussion, right?
I think it's just an annoyance more than anything. Like, yeah, in your raid group, it's pretty easy to work out who takes what, but it's just a bit of a hassle. Like if you're doing dungeons or whatever, and then you go into a raid, and then one of your healers is taking protect off, definitely, because there's so many necessary skills on here.
Oh, whoops, we forgot to set an Asuna. White pit. I can't cure that throttle, sorry.
Like that's gonna be different than we have now. I mean, I don't know if you guys do a lot of A12 pugs, but like it seems like it's usually a DPS. They don't even organize who's going where for defamation. So like you wait till you wipe to it, and then you start figuring out, okay, I'm going west. How about you, right? So it's not that different.
It's the favorite, like my favorite thing going into.
Before you start organizing, right?
Yeah, my favorite thing going into a fight is like you start to organize stuff, and you're like, hey, you want to do this? You want to do that? And the guy just doesn't respond. And so you just take all the things that are useful, and that's the only way you can win, because this guy isn't going to do anything anyways. And then he's like, wait a minute, I got protect. Why'd you get protect? Because I had that conversation with you, and you didn't respond to me. But that's just a normal like party finder experience, isn't it? Bach, you're like a veteran with party finder at this point, aren't you?
Sure.
Yeah.
We do a lot of traps, and yeah, you know what? That's actually a really good point that I didn't think of, because the way I see it, I'm thinking of everything. Like when I think of Stormblood, I think of running with my static, right? But that's actually a really good point that I didn't think of, is like how that affects pug dynamics, because that's just another thing that you have to talk about and with your co-healer, and you like, I don't know, coordinating things in Party Finder, like the responsiveness of your co-healer ranges anywhere between very responsive to like essentially comatose, right? So that is an extra annoyance. I never thought of it that way, but you make a really good point.
I don't know, dude. Like, if I go into Party Finder, I'll just let the other healer die, and I'll just life pull everyone with mechanics. Gonna be good old. I promise you. You
How do
don't
you-
need another.
Okay, so how do you guys feel about that? Being able to pull people around? Do you feel like
Dude,
that's
I
going to be like a
fucking
good
love it.
ability, or is that going to be like one of those things that's like, oh, it's kind of cool, but it has no practicality to it if everyone does what they're supposed to do?
I'm gonna see monks, right? And I can see the mantra going up, right? And I see the 3 stacks going up, right? And I see the PB coming up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just gonna life pull him, and he's gonna be so pissed off. It's gonna be fucking glorious.
The troll factor, the troll potential of rescue is real,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
I
It's
also
magnificent.
can't wait for DPS to be like, I just can't wait for DPS to be like, you know, he dies to an AOE, and he's just like, yo, the healer didn't rescue me from that AOE. so like, if I swear to God, if I ever see a single DPS say that to me, I am gonna rescue him from every single AOE and pull him to fucking Narnia every single time.
I would just leave the group at that point. I mean, that's just like, I don't know. I mean, it's funny because this is an ability people who played WoW are kind of familiar with because they introduced that in WoW as well. And it was fun. It's a cool, I mean, that kind of adds to the fun factor of White Mage, right? Lily suck, but you can pull people around.
Yo, in all seriousness, it's like sometimes I watch old videos of myself to see like where I make mistakes and shit, and I see a lot of shit like where I think like, man, I wish I had life pull. I could have saved that guy. It's like stuff like that. I think I'm like in Pork it will be mostly used for like super clutch situations, like where you would use Benny and stuff like that. But for like example in Nirvana, if you get Hysteria, right, I can just put him back to me. It's gonna be great.
You're a little low for some reason. I don't know why, Miunih, but you're a little bit lower there.
Oh,
Maybe-
I'll get higher, man.
Maybe you just got shy.
I don't know. It
What?
kind of
Sounds like it's kind of
Honestly-
going in and out a little bit.
yeah. You're a little quiet.
Go.
I was just gonna, though. The only thing about that is like we do have a lot of cross classes that we want to take already. Like there's a lot of really good healer cross classes. Like obviously Swiftcast and Lucid Dreaming are mandatory. Like I don't see any situation where you don't take Swiftcast
Yep.
and Dreaming. Somebody has to take Protect and Asuna. Presumably one would take one, the other one would take the other for the 2 healers. If I'm guessing.
Do you always need Asuna?
Not always, but I'm just saying like in general, if you're
Right,
going
yeah.
into a fight and you don't know what you're doing, you just want to take one. Eye for an Eye is pretty useful. Largesse is pretty useful. It's like you're running out of slots. So I want to take Life Bowl Rescue. I want to have that on my bar, but I'm throwing something else that's useful away no matter what. Unless Asuna is not needed, in which case you can take that.
It's an opportunity.
Eye for an Eye. But
Hmm.
I like Eye for an Eye. I don't know. A lot of people hate on Eye for an Eye, but I really like it.
No,
I
that's
really
good.
like it too. I think it's really useful.
Yeah. Bach, you hate it, right?
Storm's Path.
Me?
Yeah.
Eye for an Eye? I use it because it's free. I think it's a pretty weak cooldown. I mean, like, it's.
But it does something, right?
It sometimes does something. It's,
Okay. Excellent.
yeah, it sometimes does something. But so I don't know. I don't think very highly of it. I think that's something that's like, kind of like a 5th option to me for like, you know, after I think largesse is like, okay, so I think Swiftcast, largesse. What am I leaving out here? I'm leaving something out. Swiftcast, largesse. Help me out here, guys.
Lucid dreaming.
Oh,
Yeah, Lucid Dreaming.
absolutely. That's the one I'm leaving out. Yeah, like those are essential. Like I don't care what fight you're doing. Like even if you don't need the mana from Lucid Dreaming, just drop your piety and you know use that. You know, do more damage, right? I think Lucid Dreaming, largesse, Swiftcast are almost essential. I think protect one person needs protect, and depending on fight specific stuff, right? Like you might need Asuna, you might need, you know, that heavy. I don't like the healer using heavy, and you might need a sure cast, right? If there are encounters that, you know, put your healers to sleep or something, you never know,
Mhm.
right? But for the most part, I don't think that highly of Eye for an Eye, and I'm just going to use that if there are no better options. I don't think very highly of it.
Okay, the sound kind of got weird there for a second, apparently.
Oh, am
But-
I okay?
No, you're fine. It wasn't you, but I think like I think the sound in the stream, the OBS mixer just got all messed up, but I think it's fine now. So hopefully everybody heard all your points. If they didn't, then SOL. SOL. You may
Can we talk about things that's been stolen from us? like
Yeah.
Stone Skin. How Square Enix bamboozled Stone Skin out of her. Like, what the fuck? I want my Stone Skin back. You know how useful Stone Skin was? It's unreal. Like, I used it so much, and they were like, "Nah, you don't need that." Like, that is what I'm pissed about. You can have my Swiftcast. You can have my Lucid Dream. I want my Stone Skin back.
Do you guys all feel the same way about Stone Skin? Like, I kind of feel like it was awesome at the start.
Like,
but
when people die and they get rezzed up and you don't know if they survive, you Stone Skin them. It's amazing. And I can't do that anymore now.
just let the paladin do his thing, or he can throw that ability where he gives someone a cooldown.
I mean, if it's just one person, you can still use Divine Venison, but it feels bad.
Well, what if you don't have your lilies up?
I just gotta cast a cure too.
It's true. You gotta cast Cure too, so you get the ability for it.
You just raised him, so he's gotta get the cure 2 anyway, right? Because he's at like no HP. So you get cure 2, Divine Venison, and go back to what you're doing. I don't know. I still don't like it. I wish we had Stone Skin back too.
Bach, how do you feel, dude?
Lost of Stone Skin?
Yeah.
I don't mind it. I mean, I feel that if Stone Skin's gone, that you know, as cool as it was to have with Stone Skin gone, I mean, we'll get used to it because content will be bounced around not having that Stone Skin in the first place, right? So,
We hope.
Well, I don't know.
Well, I don't know about that either, but like, you know,
Mhm.
I mean, it is what it is. I don't really care either way, to be honest.
Okay. Ayesa?
Yeah, I'm disappointed to see it go, only for it to be rebranded in its lily flavor with Divine Venison.
Yeah.
I think that's a disappointment.
I mean, Stone Skin was awesome. It's iconic, pretty much. And so it's kind of
Exactly.
it's sad.
I will say this about Stone Skin though. I will say this about Stone Skin, is Stone Skin is an ability, like when they're getting rid of the cross class stuff, right? So White Mage, Scholar and Astro no longer have access to Stone Skin. You know, let's just suppose Stone Skin was still a thing.
Mhm.
I thought that Stone Skin could have been a means, like kind of an avenue for them to buff White Mage and give White Mage something that Scholar and Astro don't have that Scholar and Astro don't have access to.
Mhm.
And like we all agree that White Mage needs some love, right?
Yeah.
We can all agree on that. So I thought that if anything, taking Stone Skin would be a great avenue to buff White Mage, because it's like, okay, not only does Scholar and Astro no longer have access to this, but maybe we can even take Stone Skin and make it better to make people want to play White Mage more. But instead, what did they do? They removed it. Like I'm not sad that Stone Skin is gone, as like from a strategical perspective, but on the other hand, I think that Stone Skin could have been a way for them to improve White Mage. Instead, what did they do? They just straight up removed it.
Yeah. It's, you know, I would love to see them put something in that's kind of like Stone Skin, but like acts as like a DPS as well. Like you put Stone Skin up and it like does an AoE damage when it's broken.
Janna Shield, first thing came to mind.
That would have made them really, really interesting. It'd be a cool factor just because it adds in damage and does protection.
Stone Skin all day.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't do enough, right?
Paladin used to have Stone Skin, right? And like sometimes we had some really clutch situations where, like in T13, we used Paladin, and sometimes the Paladin with Stone Skin as well, right?
Mhm.
Like it wasn't just good for White Mage; it was actually good for like Paladin as well. Like Paladin could even use, like in clutch situations, you can save the raid by Stone Skinning someone, and now it's gone. Like
Yeah, well, it's one of my factors of why I thought
the-
Paladins were really
yeah.
great, but
it's the only mitigation that White Mage, and now they have like this shitty Lily thing that you probably won't ever fucking use.
tell us how you really feel, Miunih.
Dude, I'm mad. I'm stupid, dude.
It's stupid. Makes fun of some people on Reddit comments again.
No, that pisses me off.
So there's been some talk or like rumors that that maybe with weakness you won't have penalties to your HP anymore, but your main stat will be more heavily penalized. Do you think it's okay to not have Stone Skin if that's the case? If people aren't going to be rezzed with 3k less health or whatever?
No. Well, I mean, it will, because that's kind of where it came into a really beneficial play, is that they weren't going to have enough life to survive this kill-all mechanic that you needed like a certain HP pool to have. But at the same time, I don't know. Just there's other factors where it becomes useful, like adding in Stone Skin just as for the person who has a little bit lower health than everybody else, just because they don't have enough vitality overall, right? They take more damage. For like black mages were really weak, right? You put a Stone Skin on them to make sure that they don't take as much damage. Oh well, that's my thought as a non-healer, but
Shitty black ones, so,
yeah.
I mean, mana ball, but yeah.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, but I'm talking about things where we're not counting on everyone to be perfect either.
No. I know what you mean. Like
Yeah.
we tried actually to carry Cody because he had like a 210 weapon through A10 rest, right? I just was constantly stone skinning him, otherwise he would die. And now I couldn't do that anymore.
Nah.
It makes me sad. Makes me very sad.
Are
Just
there?
go Astro and sit there and spam. Aspect to benefit on him. 600 potency shield.
It's the solution to everything, dude. Just go Astro.
Astro.
It feels bad.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about lilies. We talked a little bit about the cross-class skills, and of course, Stone Skin. How do you guys feel? Are there any other kind of big concerns we need to worry about with White Mage? No?
Concerns.
Yeah, just concerns, things that are kind of valid concerns, like we're like actually worried about with White
I think
Mage.
we covered it all.
Okay. Are there
I
any?
mentioned it before, but Divine Seal nerf is pretty huge for White Mage, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's something that can't be understated. It is pretty big, and like yeah, you know what? They got a buff to Shroud.
Mhm.
Lucid Dreaming is an upgrade to Shroud, but yet at the same time, Largesse is a downgrade to
Yeah, but like
Divine Seal.
MP was never the main resource of White Mage. Let's be honest. The main resource was
It was a
GCD.
weakness though. It was a weakness.
It was a weak. Well, I strongly disagree. Like if I see a White Mage go I don't know what you're doing. But like the main resource for me was GCDs, and you can get a lot of GCDs out of Divine Seal. And now that it's nerfed, it's harder to put the same GCDs in the time you want.
I mean, just out of curiosity, I'll say this is just a blanket statement. You guys can tell me if I'm stupid or not. If you're a good player, one of the goals is to go out of mana as efficiently as possible, right?
Yes.
As quickly and as
Get the
efficiently.
fight
But you do
going.
want to go out of mana. Because if you do go out of mana, you can get it back by other means, and there's other abilities out there that can get your mana back, right? And so if you can actually get use out of those, do you become like a better, like, is the team just that much stronger?
Well,
Like in a perfect fight, everyone being 0 TP and everyone being 0 MP at the end would be an ideal thought. Just right at the very end, like right when the kill happens. That's kind of like perfectly
Well, as a
using all
White
the-
Mage, I always try to spend all my MP. Like it's a resource I just can't spend, right? So I use the most GCDs I can per MP and try to balance it out so that I'm 0 MP at the end. Because that means I use my class fully to the extent. But you can't always say that it's about the same other classes, I guess.
Yeah,
I
mean,
think our perception
Mhm.
has changed over the course of Heavensward. At the start, I don't think anyone would have said that White Mage's MP economy is really terrible. I think it's the changes to Astro that have altered the perception on it.
Okay.
Whereas Astro can get away with running very little piety, and same with Scholar.
Okay.
But Astro at the start of Heavensward was in the same boat as White Mage, really. That's why I think they made the spells, cost less.
So I just got a quick message here from Zad in the chat, who said apparently there's new leaks at E3, and this is just a
fake.
Yeah, it could be completely fake news here, Zad.
Yeah.
I don't know, but we'll go ahead and discuss it. White mages have a 20% proc off of regen and Medica 2 ticks. White mages have Thin Air now that has a recast time of 90 seconds. And Scholar's Change Stratagem is only
let me tell
duration
you
of 10
something.
seconds. Go ahead.
I've seen the same links, right? The same things.
Uh-huh.
In one of the leak, they said it would drop one of the new primers would drop 320 weapons, and the other leak it says 310 weapons. Just don't believe anything. It's not true, dude. It's all fake. It's all done.
All fake. Okay. Do you think that's all fake, Bach?
I'm skeptical. Very
Okay.
skeptical.
Getting procs off of ticks sounds kind of shady for some reason to me.
Not only shady, but just bad design. Shouldn't ever be rewarded for putting up hots if they're not doing anything useful.
You know, well, it's okay with Bard and Bloodletter. Why not White Mage?
I mean, region.
I mean, I'd rather. I mean, if you think about it, yeah. If you think about it, is that really that overpowered? If it procs off of region ticks? Because if you think about it this way, what is more valuable overall? 4% cooldown reduction or Bloodletter? I'd take the Bloodletter any day. So like, if it's okay for Bard to have that proc, why is it not okay for White Mage to have that proc? I don't think it would be that overpowered if regen ticks. If regen ticks gave you, I don't
I
think.
don't want to see more
I don't wanna see it,
100%
though.
uptime Medica 2 White Mages, please.
Yeah.
Well, they would,
With a regen on every member of the party.
if they did
Oh
do
my
that,
God.
they would
Breakdown.
make it not proc unless it actually healed HP, like they did with the Cure 1 and Cure 2. Like so I mean, you still would regen full health targets.
Okay.
I would think they wouldn't incentivize that.
Mm-mm. I'd be very surprised if that change is actually true, because a lot of people made that suggestion, and like, you know, these rumors come up, and to me they're just rumors. I'm skeptical, but I'll reserve judgment until I see the patch notes.
If it's not from an official source, I just don't believe it. I just assume people love to make up
It's-
stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Oh,
So.
totally agreed.
Yeah. All right.
One
Go ahead.
more thing I wanted to say on the valid concerns topic.
Mhm.
Just sort of an honorable mention. It's a minor point, but a sizing on opener. I hope you like eating a boss auto attacks to the face now, huh? It's like,
So I do that anyway, dude. Like, I need a
I know.
shot.
how are you doing that? Plus, you're healing the entire raid for
Oh
300
my
potions.
god, dude! I never thought about that.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that's on top of
Spicy.
opening with Medica 2 for those Lily stacks, right, guys?
Yeah, boy.
Okay. Are there invalid concerns? Has there been anything that you guys have seen kind of in Reddit and in any other places where you're like, man, this makes absolutely no sense, but people are actually freaking out about it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Tell me what these are.
Well, Lily mechanic sucks, but
Mhm.
people are reacting as if White Mage is like complete garbage. Let me tell you what complete garbage is. 2.0 Warrior was complete garbage. Like your mitigation options were like non-existent, and this is in content where you have to tank Dread Knights and death sentences from Twintania,
Oh, man.
right? Like Warrior does not have a place. Like 2.0 Warrior did not have a place, and a Warrior was if you brought a Warrior, like he must have been a really cool guy or something. He must have maybe he had his crafters leveled, and you know you really needed him in the party. You know,
Somebody's
maybe he's a
cousin.
really cool guy. Maybe he's just paying everybody sub because he's such a nice guy. But straight up, 2.0 Warrior was a detriment to the raid. 2.4 Dragoon, detriment to the raid. You know, magic damage that would do 5k damage to your party would do 7k damage to your Dragoon. So it's ridiculous how fragile Dragoons were because of for those who don't know the history of the game's meta and stuff like that, Dragoon used to have like extremely low magic resistance, right?
Mhm.
Like basically Dragoons were like they enter the raid soaked in gasoline, and like when a fire mechanic comes out, they just take way more than everybody else. Like that's basically what it felt like. So Dragoon was a straight up detriment to the raid.
Mhm.
3.0 Astro, we've talked about. These are examples of complete garbage, and I don't think White Mage falls under that category. But people are reacting as if White Mage falls under the category. White Mage is not even close.
Because they don't know what
Not
they're
even
talking about.
close. They don't know what
Yeah,
they're talking about.
definitely.
So people are saying, jokes aside, White Mage on a tombstone, blah blah blah.
Mhm.
I think they're overreacting. Bottom line, White Mage has assets that no other healer has. Cure 3, Cure 3 has a lot of niche uses, and the throughput of AoE healing that White Mage is capable of, right, is that's a big deal. Also, White Mage's AoE damage output, right, is really important. So, it can be really important depending on the encounter, and I think that's unmatched with the when it comes to healers, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, especially with Sinel now.
Yeah, and also,
More now.
people talk about Nocturnal Astral being so strong, but you're not going to run Nocturnal Astral with a Scholar, are you? Right? Just because you're getting diminishing returns on shields.
Mhm.
So with that being said, if Nocturnal Astro is truly that powerful, and it matches better with White Mage, that's another thing that can benefit White Mages. So there are benefits to bringing White Mage that don't exist with the others. I don't think it's enough to make them meta, but it's not enough to. But they're strong enough that you can't lump them in the same category as 2.0 Warrior or 3.0 Astral. It's not even close.
Okay, so you put them in a category of just slightly less than.
Yeah. I see, the way I rationalize it, right, is like if you're to rank them in tiers, right? Like S tier is like you bring this class or you're gimped. You're completely gimped. Like Warrior currently, right? You don't bring a Warrior, your raid group is quite a bit weaker.
Yeah.
And then you have the A tier, which is like if you want to bring optimal team comp, you have to bring A tier. So that's Dragoons, Bard Machinists, stuff like that, right? But the B tier, which is like these classes are serviceable. They're not. They may or may not be optimal, but they're serviceable. Like
Paladin,
right?
I
put Paladin in a C tier.
Okay.
They're weak, but you can still work around it. They're not a complete detriment to the raid. And then there's the D tier, which is what we're talking about: Warrior 2.0, Astro 3.0, Dragoon 2.4. I would put White Mage, just from what I've seen and just kind of what my intuition tells me, is C, not D. They're a C.
Okay, so they're not in the garbage can.
They're not in the garbage can.
Okay.
They don't smell good, but they're not in the garbage can either.
All right, so they're kind of like
They kind of stink. But they're not terrible, and there are rewarding reasons to bring a White Mage. There can be instances where you're just like, I'm kind of glad I'm a White Mage right now. This Cure 3 is pretty sweet. But with that being said, I think people are misconstruing the weakness and the garbage fire that is the Lily mechanic, and kind of like extrapolating that to saying that White Mage is completely worthless, which is not true.
Yeah.
Okay. So
it's kind of the same like they did in like what Monk was, right? Because everyone says delete Monk, and I'm like, dude, Monk really isn't that bad, and even if it's that bad, it's not bad for the reasons that you say. It's like Monk is insanely strong, like solo DPS, but raids, right? Like they just don't do anything. And I feel like White Mage is kind of the same. Like they're really strong on their own, they just don't do anything for the raid, which is bad in the team game. But like, yeah, I still don't think White Mage is bad. I think people are just not using White Mage as it's meant to be.
Well, I like to draw the parallel a little more to 3.0 Astro in the sense that that's not what we have here with White Mage going into Stormblood. Like 3.0 Astro had issues with healing throughput and had issues with clunkiness of their kit that was fixed in some quality of life patches like thereafter. But healing wise, they couldn't compete with a White Mage in a content like A3S. It was difficult. You had to struggle more. Your kit wasn't as helpful. And so I felt like they were weaker on the healing end of it. And that's not what we have. Like going into Stormblood, White Mage can do everything healing required. No problem. In fact, they would be a better choice for it, I think, than the other healers if it's just pure output. Or at the very least, they're on even footing. Maybe not better. That's overstating. But it's just the raid utility, yeah. So it's in a similar boat, I think, to Monk. I think that's a good parallel.
Exactly, yeah.
Miunih's parallel is good. So it's like it's going to be not optimal comp, but it's fine. Like the class is going to work fine. It's just the Lily mechanic is just bad.
Yeah, I see like PFs, right, that say, well, don't bring Monk. And I'm like, why not? Right? Like, it's just a PF. It's just for farming. Yeah, because they are like shit. I'm like, yeah, but why are they shit? You don't even know why they're shit. And this is exactly the same with White Mage. They're saying like they're shit, but they don't actually understand why. And I don't know, it just makes me mad. People say like, don't bring a White Mage just because they don't understand why you wouldn't bring a White Mage. Same with Monk, same with like any other class that was in the same situation. Same with Black Mage. You wouldn't bring a Black Mage in the latest tier, honestly, because they don't really bring much to the raid other than APOC. APOC was good.
Okay.
But it's like bringing an Astro back in 3.0 presented like a whole bunch of new problems that were healing related. Like I still remember the first time, because I was playing Astro a little bit in like farm content of Gordius. I remember the first time we were in Cascade phase, and the boss just suddenly turns around toward me and cleaves me and kills me on Astro. And I'm just like, what? Because I don't have Shroud. I didn't have a way of stripping my aggro. So my aggro was just building up and building up and building up over the whole fight. and then it's just like suddenly I would die, and that's an Astro specific problem that existed for healing, and that's
All right. Yes, I haven't heard from you yet, man.
All right. So if we take a step back from raiding for a second, White Mage is just flat out the best healer for dungeons now in Stormblood. With Scholar's AoE being nerfed, there's no reason not to play White Mage in dungeons. Like, holy crap, you're gonna do so much damage. Your MP economy is a lot better with lower cooldown on a size, and you have thinner as well. You just spam those holies all day.
I can't wait to fuck shit up with White Mage in dungeons.
Stone 4, like, damn.
You know,
that is the best dungeon healer, hands down.
That's hilarious that you guys say that, because I have personal opinions on, you know, having to change jobs because you go into a dungeon and you're completely useless compared to the other jobs for a dungeon. And now you guys think kind of White Mage is going to be there, where if you don't bring a White Mage, you're going to feel like things are kind of slow.
I think Astro could still do a pretty good job with AoE, can't it? Like, it will be behind at White Mage in dungeons, but not too far. Because Gravity's still pretty freaking good. And they got a new AoE in the Earthly Star, even though it's not that potent.
You know what Bok said about the S tier things? Like, you know, if there was an S tier for abilities, Thin Air would be in the S tier. It's that good for our dungeons. It's
good.
Ridiculous. It's insane.
So, I mean, we're kind of edging towards DPS right now, too, and this might go towards more of a general statement towards healers. But, I mean, when we're talking about DPS with healers, we're talking also about the changes with Cleric stance. I want to get your opinion, because this is something that a lot of people have talked about, and they've had a concern with how Cleric stance is changing. Do you guys feel like that's a positive or a negative change, what they did with it?
Okay, I'll go first then.
Okay.
Like, the change to Cleric stance, or the removal, let's just say that Cleric stance as we know it from Heavensward is just gone. The new Cleric stance is something completely different. And its removal, honestly, it doesn't matter. If you've played healer as long as everyone in here has, you are never inhibited by Cleric stance. And
it would be newer players that are inhibited by it.
Doesn't make a difference. There are different reasons why we're perhaps less happy about Stormblood changes, but Cleric stance isn't one of them. The bigger impact for Scholar and Astro is the removal of Arrow from cross-class, and also Scholar losing its Bio 1. Because that directly impacts our ability to weave without losing DPS, without losing spell casts in general over the course of a fight. So that is the main impact. The removal of Cleric stance doesn't matter.
Okay.
It was just a nuisance, if anything.
Yeah. I feel like right now it's going to be in a pretty good spot, because anyone can DPS safely now, right? There's no, like, risk to it. I feel like that's a really, really good change. It sucks for people who enjoyed that thrill of saying, like, I'm so good, I know exactly how to time my Cleric stances. But that's all it was for, right? That's the only benefit
if you were good enough, you know, like, where to Cleric stance. And honestly, it was just another button you have to press for actually no reason at all. So I'm super happy it's gone.
Okay. Bach, what are your thoughts on it, dude?
My thoughts, Ayesa, maybe I'm just not as good of a healer as you guys are, but like man, I like accidentally doing my whole fucking opener without clerics, or like accidentally healing clerics. Like I just feel like I had mixed feelings at first. Like at first when they said they're gonna remove cleric stance, you know, in the sense that you have to, you know, go into cleric stance to DPS and then get out of cleric stance to heal. Like at first I was a little apprehensive about that, and I didn't know how I felt about it, because I really like the fact that if you want to go into cleric stance, you have to commit 5 seconds, so that's 2 to 3 GCDs of doing damage, right? In order to you know, and there's a lot of finesse around that. There's a lot of finesse, because there are a lot of times I would change the way I would sequence my heals. Like the earliest example is the first fight I learned on healer was A7. So like there's one part it goes sizzle spark and then pause, sizzle spark, and then pause, then sizzle beam. So then like you have to do the AoE healing. You have to, and I tried to match one AoE heal for each of the sizzle sparks. But here's the thing: I heal the first sizzle spark, and then there's a gap in between. That's one GCD gap, and then I have to do another AoE heal. So instead, what I did was I did a damage spell first, got out of clerics, and did a late AoE heal followed by an early AoE heal. So then that way, those heals are my DPS spells are clumped together, my heal spells are clumped together, and that felt really rewarding because I'm just like, wow, you know, I solved how to do this phase without losing a GCD, but still maximize my damage. So that felt good to me because I'm just like, you know, cleric stance takes a lot of finesse and in order to master it and in order to, you know, get the most out of your damage. And this separates, you know, the skilled players from the lesser skilled players, and that's really rewarding for, you know, when people can use their skill and their knowledge to get more out of their class. So I like that about cleric stance, but then I think about all the times where my party died because oops, bok choy cleric stance, right?
Yeah.
And I'd be lying if I said that didn't happen, like, you know, if that was an extremely rare occurrence. But it's just another way to wipe. Right? It's just another way to wipe. So I think the good outweighs the bad when it comes to removing that. I think the good outweighs the bad because it's just another way to wipe. And it doesn't exist with other classes, because if another class, you know, you accidentally fat finger your Gauss barrel, you're going to do a little bit more damage. You're going to be a little salty about it. But at least you're not, you know, at least your party's not laying face down in the dirt because of it. Right. So it just, I think it removes a lot of the margins of error that exists with healing that don't exist with other jobs. So I think overall, I really like this change. And every single time I accidentally heal someone in cleric stance, I'm just like, can't freaking wait till they get rid of this shit. I mean, maybe I'm just like, I'm just a naturally clumsy player, right? Like I'm a naturally clumsy player, and you guys are probably a lot better at healing than I am.
I
right?
promise you, it happened so many times.
Oh, of course, yeah, I'm sure it happens to everybody, but it happens.
The majority of players out there, I know for a fact, do it all the time. And it's just a common thing. It's annoying, and all you think is like, God damn it, I was not in cleric stance, or God damn it, I am it. Because if you accidentally go into cleric stance, you're really screwed, right? I mean, it's horrible. But if you
other way around, you do your whole fucking opener, you pot, and you super max pot and everything, and you're like, oh shit. You look down at your parser, you're doing 130 DPS. You're just like, what? Oh my god, right?
And so it's good that they're kind of removing that as it sucks because if you're really, really good, it's like you feel good about accomplishing it with it. But it's also good because I feel like the overall player base is going to turn out a lot better. And do you think that the whole like you shouldn't DPS as a healer, you should DPS as a healer thing is going to kind of go away with this, or is it still going to keep going?
No.
Well, it's like a first step, right? The healers that are first coming out of their comfort zone to DPS, I see a lot of this in DF. They'll start by casting DPS spells without Cleric on. Like that's their first step because they're scared to go into Cleric. So I think this bridges that gap, you know, with the new player trying to feel out the DPSing section. They won't have to like go into that scary Cleric lock where they can't heal for 5 seconds anymore. I don't know. I feel like that's still a thing with a lot of newer healers. So it'll make it easier to come out of your shell.
Yeah. And
but for anyone who's played for a while, it doesn't make a change.
So when you're doing a DPS spell, you don't really have any risk. You're like, hey, I can't do anything now. You're not afraid to hit the cleric stance button anymore. You just like, well, if I can't do anything, I'm not pressing a button and a GCD could be used. I can cast something right now to do damage, and then I can come back and heal. It's not a risk.
It's also easier, like from a mentor point of view, because I actually really like just going into BF and like just like trying to teach people like how to play the game, right? It's actually easier to tell people like, yo, if you're not doing anything, you know, it's a good idea to pop an arrow, like a pop an arrow 2 in this case, and like stone 4 or arrow 3, you know. But like when you try to like teach people that you had to go cleric first, like it's better to go into cleric. They always said like, no, I don't want to, and I feel like the skill gap is gonna be way smaller now. I mean, the higher skilled people will always find ways to like just be better than everyone else, right? But I feel the skill gap of the lower, like the skill, I don't know, how do you call it? The skill floor is going to be higher because people dare to use.
I mean, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing?
That's a good thing, definitely a good thing.
Okay.
Like the more skilled people, the more people that try things, the more people who try to DPS is for me a good thing.
Yeah.
0 DPS healers are going to be crucified even more.
Probably.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, definitely. They have to be.
Good. Wait,
Uh,
what? You said that.
wait, what? Who's being an elitist asshole? Not me. Okay, I feel like we need to start comparing a little bit too, because we have been doing that a little bit, and going into the whole cleric talk kind of is a good segue
Can I
here.
make one point about clerics?
Go. Oh no. Yes. Okay.
So like you know, I feel like, you know, if you took all the healers and you put them kind of like on a spectrum, right?
Mhm.
So on the right side of the spectrum, you have the healers who are already using cleric stance and very effectively and pumping out as much damage as you can. And the other side of the spectrum, on the left side of the spectrum, you got the healers who just not interested in doing any damage, either because they're lazy or because they don't know or because they just don't want to, right? And I feel like on the far right, the people who are already doing damage are already doing damage. So this cleric stance change doesn't really affect them. And then the left side, the people who don't want to heal, or sorry, the people who only want to heal and don't want to do damage, or the sylphies, as we like to call them. It's a derogatory term we use to describe 0 DPS healers.
Okay.
But anyway, we call them sylphies because I don't know if you've done the white mage
Yeah.
tournament, but anyway, I'm not going to get into that. But and then there's a little sweet spot in the middle, and this sweet spot in the middle, these are the people who the main barrier for them to deal damage is they don't like cleric stance. They don't like popping. They don't like the risk of entering a stance that makes it so they cannot heal for 5 seconds. And I think that those are the only people who are truly affected by it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that sweet spot is a lot smaller than a lot of people think. So I don't think it'll affect, you know, when it comes to people who want to DPS as a healer or don't want to DPS as a healer. You know, I think we'll see a very small change. The people who will be the most affected by this are raiders who are already using cleric stance this way and just make a lot of mistakes, like me.
Well, I mean, like I'll go in and say I think it affects a lot more people than that, just because when you're progressing on a fight, that's where you get the fear. And there's a lot of people who progress for a while, and they learn a phase, and they're like, how do I make it more optimal? And that's the cleric stance is the optimal point. But while they're progressing, it's not a difficult choice to hit a DPS ability now. There's no thought. And so, like, I feel like a lot of people who were progressing before, and, you know, the casual, kind of like a little bit higher than casual, a little bit lower than casual, that's a pretty decent population of people who would just sit there because they're like,
Yeah,
I need to watch.
You're right. Maybe I'm the one who's underestimating how much of that population, you know, who weren't DPSing before are going to DPS now. Maybe I'm underestimating how big that portion is. But I guess my point is the left side of the spectrum and the right side of the spectrum. There are people who are already DPSing and there are people who still won't DPS, right? So, but yeah.
I think it's just going to be RP selfies. That's all it's going to be.
Yeah, exactly.
They have to intentionally say, I don't want to DPS from now. That's like there's no place to DPS. If there's no place, then I don't think there's ever going to be a spot in a fight where there's no place. But I don't know. You don't have to just sit and observe. You can actually press a button and observe while you're pressing the button that GCD is going off, and then figure out what you need to do after it. I don't know. But I feel like we all made really good points on that.
I will say one thing though. This is a direct buff to Size, and I think a lot of people kind of gloss over that. Is like, you know, usually when you Size now, it's like you have to choose healing or damage. You know, most people are going to choose damage, right? But now it's like if with proper timing with Size, you know, maybe you could delay it just a little bit. You know, so you get 2 birds with 1 stone. You're going to heal the whole party, and you're doing damage. Where, you know, that's on top of a Size going from 90-second cooldown to 60-second cooldown. Potentially less if you have enough lilies. So, you know, there you go.
Okay. So
A Size is just an aggro button now.
Yeah, it really is.
I want to tank. This is my provoke.
oh my god, I didn't think about that. Yeah, Jesus Christ. You have to tell people not to stack on the boss. Or stack on whatever you're hitting. Yeah. Right? Because if you heal them, then you're oh god.
I mean,
It's mostly just
run
going to
away
be
from the group.
it's going to be dangerous to use if the healing isn't required. So
That's
using
where
it
rescue is useful, right?
dangerous.
Can you see like the whole party gathered? Like think about A4 and like the whole party gathers on the like right side of the arena. White Mage goes back to the left side of the arena just so he can open with a Size and not hit the whole party. Great, I love it.
Maybe you could throw some teamwork in there. It's just like, yo, I'm about to pop a size. Could you like rescue me over to this spot over here so I don't?
Give me that smoke screen on
Oh
pulling
man,
your end it
this
too.
is pretty. These are pretty sick tactics. I'm gonna write them down actually. Hold on.
So I do want to talk a little bit about how White Mage is kind of comparing between the other two. Do you feel like Scholar and Astro are now like the changes they got you're excited about? Are you guys really excited about those two healers versus White Mage? It sounds like a stupid question, but I want to hear you guys say it.
I'm really sad about the changes to Scholar. I mean, they got the big DPS boost that sort of secured their DPS like slot as a healer, but I'm really sad about the Bane nerf and the nerfs to like. Well, there's the 50 potency nerf to Embrace, which is sort of whatever, but I don't know. And then the awkwardness of giving them another buff for deployed Adlo. Like, you know what we needed for deployed Adlo being already too strong? Let's give it 20% more. Just sprinkle that on top. I don't know. It's weird. I don't get it.
Okay. Ayesa, what do you think, man?
In terms of Scholar, pretty disappointed overall. Like we got the one thing that I wanted for Scholar, which was the fairy tether, being able to force the fairy to heal someone, and it looks pretty potent as well. But I guess we got the the crit buff as well for everyone, which is not something we needed or were really asked for. I mean, we'll take it. But other than that, the changes have been pretty disappointing. We got a lot more off GCD abilities, and we don't have the spells to weave them or double weave them on anymore. So we're going to be forced to use Rune 2, so that's pretty disappointing. But for Astro, I mean, you can't not be excited when you see that earthly star. That thing was ridiculous.
Yeah.
They're kind of in the same boat in that because they lose Arrow and Combust changes to Combust 2, like they can't really do their weaving, and they're going to have to do even more of that with Minor Arcana, using the Lord and Lady cards. But yeah, I mean, my disappointment mostly stems from that the playstyle is just getting messy now. Not necessarily that we're getting skills that are useless or bad. It's just that the playstyle is messy.
Okay.
And you won't have as many opportunities to optimize in terms of, make sure you're not losing casts and stuff, because you're just going to have to clip all the time.
Isn't that all healers though, not just Scholar?
Yeah. Astro and Scholar are going to be hit hardest. I think White Mage has it a little bit easier because they don't have quite as many off GCDs.
Yeah, and Arrow 2 is instant now anyway. So.
And Arrow 2 is going to have a lower duration than Bio 2 and Combust 2. You don't have to Fluid Aura anymore on White Mage. So I think White Mage has it a bit easier in that sense.
Yeah.
White Mage also only has the one DPS off global, so all their healing stuff is probably going to be clipped because it'll be timing. But that's the same as it was before. It's just there's more. Yeah, the addition of Divine Benison and Plenary Indulgence, depending on how much it's used. It's probably going to be clipping GCDs.
Okay, well that's kind of a little bit sadder than I thought. I thought everyone was a little bit more excited about Astro and Scholar. But is there just like a general like looming sad feeling towards all the healers going into 4.0?
For me, it's just not going to feel as rewarding to play, and I think that's why I'm not extremely hyped about it.
Okay, Bach, what's your thoughts on this? Oh no, go ahead, Ayesa.
So Scholar and Heavensward, like if you really knew what you were doing, you never had to clip GCDs. You could do everything on Bio and Arrow and Swiftcast. And so going away from that is just going to feel a lot less rewarding.
Okay. Bach, what's your thoughts on it, dude?
I kind of feel the same way, and I am worried about the whole clipping off GCDs thing, because losing one instant cast GCD, because good players, they really like they're I think one thing that separates good players from like the most skilled players from lesser skilled players is how well they ride their GCD, right? And having instant cast GCDs to weave, and also not just to weave but to move, right? So you're riding your GCD while in motion. that's kind of been a point that I'm worried about. Yet at the same time, I'm thinking about it now, and I'm just like, it's just something that all healers will have to accept, right? And there's also gonna be a little bit of finesse to that too, because you're just like, I have to clip my GCs anyway because I have cards to draw and redraw and Royal Road and all this other shit I have to do, and I just don't have enough instant cast to do it. So why don't you just like, you take the hit, clip your off GCD, and because you're already clipping your off GCD, use that opportunity to move, right? And also, when you're casting spells like Cure and Benefic, because the cast time of Cure and Benefic is less than your GCD, right? Then those are actually become the best times to use your off GCD. So, there's another element of skillful play, and that's that's kind of like the silver lining to me. So, while it will feel dirty that your GCDs are clipping and like you don't experience that playing tank or DPS, I think it's something that healers will just have to accept, bite the bullet, and make the most of it by, like I said, if you have to clip your off GCD to use a card, to draw a card, you may as well use that opportunity to move too. And players who are really good at that, like I think that will separate, top skilled players from the rest. So that's my opinion on that. And yeah, sorry.
Buck, I think I just gotta take a side note here to say that it's really admirable that you definitely try to make sure to be politically correct about the things that you say. When you say like the good players and the lesser skilled players, you didn't want to say the good players and the bad players. As I struggle to make sure you get the right words in there.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But you know what? I think it's a big thing is like, a big source of fun in this game for me is that, doing things that make me unique and make me more valuable to a team than the average Astro, right? That just makes the game so much more fun to me. Having a higher skill cap and something to improve upon. And I think this will be a huge thing, is how well you mitigate, because you're not ever gonna get rid of GCD clipping as a healer now. That's just not gonna happen. You have to accept it, and you have to mitigate it well by doing all those things that I just mentioned. Also, Nocturnal Astro, because Aspected Benefic gives a shield and not a regen, you don't want to clip regens because you're losing value. But as long as that shield wears off because of the boss is hitting it, then now you have a spammable instant cast that you can weave with, right? So yeah, there's that. Back to the original question.
Yeah.
How do I feel about the changes to Astral and Scholar overall? My favorite ability on Scholar, absolute favorite ability on Scholar is Bane. So of course I'm sad. Bane is so satisfying to get off, and now it's half as satisfying to get off, right? So there's that. As far as Astro goes, Earthly Star is like, it shores up one of Astro's weaknesses, which is the lack of a instant cast off GCD AoE heal, whereas White Mage had a size, Scholar had Indom, Astro didn't have anything. Well, now you're just buffing Astro even more, and the sheer healing that it does is ridiculous. Like the potency, and not to mention the graphic. The effect is beautiful. It's gorgeous. So like, man, I can't wait to cast that. And not only that, but like, you have to use it skillfully too, because it's like you have to telegraph that the boss is going to do an AoE 12 seconds from now, so you put down your Earthly Star, right? Like, I think that's so cool too. Now, one thing I don't like about Astro, I didn't do a lot of like speed running. Definitely not as much as like Kyo and Ayesa have done. I haven't done a lot of speed running, but I think the sleeve draw, draw 4 cards, is yet another layer of RNG, and that's going to affect speed running a lot, because if you really care about getting the number 1 fastest clear, and then there's another group that's like just as skilled as your group, but not only did they have perfect draw and redraw RNG and Royal Road RNG, like just from drawing cards, and then this motherfucker draws every time he does sleeve draw, he gets a expanded balance with the Lord, and you're just like, how the hell are we ever gonna beat this parse? So I think it's just another layer of RNG that like speedrunners. I know speedrunners are kind of like a niche community. They're like a subset of hardcore raiders, which is a subset of raiders, which is a subset of 14 players, so it doesn't affect a ton of people. But like
Mhm.
for those who are interested in speedrunning, like it's just another annoying thing. It's just another layer of RNG.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how I feel about Astral. That's just a negative thing that I don't like.
Okay. Miunih, what are your thoughts, man, on the comparison?
Yo. Okay, so first of all, I don't give a single fuck about FF logs. I hate everything about it. It's dumb. It creates stupid toxic societies. Anyway,
Mhm.
so like all the card draws, I don't care. Like the only thing I just want is balance to be nerfed, right? So not for the reason balance get nerfed, but for the reason that white mages get buffed in the process because there's more reason to get in white mage. And the thing, the way I'm sad about AST in Scholar is that AST gets an ability that they were lacking in an instant AoE, right?
Mhm.
Which white mage had, right? So they make white mage less desirable because AST had it. Now they're making Scholar have like more individual healing power with the fairy and the tether beam and so, which is again white mage getting sacked because why would you bring a white mage? Because you can just bring more Scholars, right? So all the things that they did to those classes, they did not do to white mage, and that's why I'm pissed. Like that is the only reason. White mage got one mitigation skill, stone skin, and it's gone. Like that is the only thing that bridged the gap. What they're trying to do is they're trying to make AST Scholar more white mage, while they're trying to make white mage less AST, more Scholar.
Okay. So you're looking at this as a perspective of a angry white mage.
Yes. Well, I'm looking at the perspective of kind of like balance. They try to balance the healers, and they just completely forget white mage, I guess. So.
It's kind of funny that you said fuck like
But anyway,
FF
like-
logs.
Dude, oh fucking hell! I fucking hate FF logs. Every time someone comes, hey, what's your FF log? Dude, I don't care. I just want to clear bosses quickly and just go back to other games, you know. Like, I love competition. I'm all for competition, but
Mhm.
the reason FF logs is so shit is because you just bring one AST and you bring like D perfect comp and everyone else is shit.
You know that's only one element of FF logs though. Like I'll be honest,
Yeah.
like I use FF logs so much to improve myself.
Yes, that's why I like.
I love that. I love that aspect of it. But you're completely right because you know, like, and I think the competition aspect of it outside of like speedrunning is kind of stupid because it's just like, how the hell are you gonna beat that Astro who doesn't keep
Exactly.
himself all the time? And now of course all the you know, I know it's superficial, but like every idiot looks at it, it's like, oh, he must be the best Astro in the world, right?
Mhm.
So like,
Yeah.
but the benefits of FF logs is like, you know, I like to creep a lot of like other Astros that I respect. Kyo, you're one of them, among many, right? And the thing is it's cool because it's like, you know, this is how I handle this phase. I want to see how other Astros handle this phase, and you know, like one of two things can happen. Oh, they do it exactly the same as I do. That gives me more confidence that I'm doing it correctly, or they do it differently than you do. It's like, okay, I like the way I do it. I don't like the way he does it. So again, it makes you more confident in the way you do it. Or you're just like, holy shit, that's genius. I never thought of that. That's amazing. What, like putting Sinistry there instead of here? I'm gonna copy that. So little things like that makes you better at the game. But I know we're kind of going on a tangent here, but
Yeah.
that's how I
I just want to say one thing, right? If oh my god, I'm gonna call people out. But like, if you're that guy, right, and it says like, hey guys, I got the 100 like super duper parts, and I look at your parts and I say 2 ASTs, and you're a black knight, right, and you're 2 ASTs, and I see 3 parts, you can fuck right off. Like
Yeah,
that is
fuck
not
off.
what FF logs is for.
Mhm.
Like, not FF logs for like analyzing what happened, when it happened, how other people do it. But if you come to me like, oh my god, I'm so good because I have 3 ASTs on me with perfect balance, no, just stop.
So let's do a quick
Yeah.
comparison.
Anyway.
We're talking about people. I'm going to get slightly political for the fun of it. So we're talking about people who kind of treat information like they watched it on Fox News. They don't look at all the different layers, right? They look at whatever like the TV says, and originally it's just it's fact. They don't actually investigate and look into it, right? So there's a population of people who do that, and then the people who are at the top, and you know, this Fox News is saying, "Oh, this is great," then these people will believe it because they don't actually look into the deeper layer of everything else.
Exactly, and that's why FF logs is like, I don't like it. I don't like what is. I like what is meant for, because it's meant for analyzing what happened, and it's good competition in between. I don't like what it's used for, which is trying to create a toxic environment.
You know what though? You know what though?
Yeah.
It's real, like, it's so superficial, because
It is.
like the thing is, like who are you really impressing by having that 100% FF logs that's completely catered to? Is you're impressing a bunch of idiots who don't know how to read the data in the first place. But the smart people who actually know how to look at it, it's like, okay, balance.
And then they make fun of you, and you become a meme.
Those are the, you know.
Yeah.
So what have you gained? You've impressed a bunch of idiots, right? Like a bunch of idiots think you're the greatest. You're the greatest.
Yeah, but it's more like
Who cares?
you know, people like to follow other people, right? And then I see on Reddit on the recruitment things like, you need to have 99% FF logs. I'm like, why, dude? Like, it doesn't even matter. Like, just stop.
You know how good it feels? Like, I recently had to recruit, right, for my static, and you know how good it feels when like someone like applies to your. I know this is really petty. Okay, this is gonna sound really petty.
No,
I think you know where I'm gonna go with this.
Yeah,
Somebody applies to your static. It's like, oh, here's my FF logs. Like, and then you reply back. It's like, sorry, we're looking for someone with a more consistent performance, because it's like his top is like 99, but his median's like 60, right? You're just like,
That's
oh,
when
sorry, you're not that good. You're not that good. And they think they're good.
I always
Yeah.
like
You can't fool me, man.
early numbers, right? If you are like 90%, hell, if you're at 80% every single time, I will probably take you in because you're consistent, you work with the team. If I see 199% and the rest is like 60, go away. Like, I don't even want you.
Okay. Kionu, do you wanna comment? Kyo, do you wanna comment on this tangent before we end it?
I think FF logs is silly. I've never liked FF logs since the beginning, and there's still my one. I still laugh about it. My 100th percentile A11 that I got on a speed kill because of a mistake. Like, I wasn't supposed to DPS that much. I held my pot on the opener so we would skip the EDD because we were pushing too hard at the start, and we were skipping the mechanic just before the EDD, and then we'd get the EDD. So I was holding my pot on the opener, and then the EDD spawned anyway. And I was like, well, I might as well pot, or I'll lose one in the fight. And I potted for all my gravities on the EDD, like an extended astral pot for every gravity. And I was just like, I can't believe I'm doing this. And at the end, it's 100 percentile. And some people started copying me and potting for the EDD gravities every time. And I was like, no, why?
That's kind of what I'm
adding.
as well, actually, because like people, you know, when people go for clears, they go for efficient DPS, applied DPS, right? I'm taking A4S for example, because you have all those legs, right? And the applied DPS is to attack one leg, right? But then you see an FF logs, and this promotes really bad play that you pad the other legs. But it's not applied DPS, it's just inefficient DPS. And it kind of like promotes bad play, honestly.
Yeah, it does. In that way, it definitely does.
Dude, you have no idea. Like, I used to know. I knew this guy, not naming names, but like every time when he'd die, he just like straight up released, because it's like, I don't like. This is my chance at beating my FF logs first.
Oh,
and he died. He just released. I'm like, oh shit, I'm really sorry, guys. I accidentally released.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, a healer who's just like, oops, cleric stands size. I guess we're wiping, right?
Oh, I hate that.
Like shit like that happens all the time. Like, you wouldn't even believe.
Well, I mean, like, so I do want to comment on that in a different respect, because I think people who understand why they're at the top, it's okay that this person's like, this is my goal. I'm going to make sure that I get to the top because I have 7 people who will support me, and it's fun to be competitive in that way, where you're like, hey, my group got me to the top versus your group that got me to the top. That can be fun if they understand why they're there. But then again, people are going to look at that in a negative way, like you said, and it will negatively affect people who don't know what they're looking at. But I don't know. It just is a weird situation, right? I can't penalize people for having a goal and trying to get up there, and as long as they don't brag about it as if it as an actual achievement that's just you versus an achievement of you and your group.
Or drag 7 other people who you waste your time with.
Yeah. Ayesa, do you want to put your comment in here before we end it? The tangent, that is.
I think FF logs is really useful for the reasons that Bok explained. It's pretty much, you know, if you want to creep on the best players, you can see exactly what they do and learn from it. Or you can compare yourself to other people, you know, in similar groups or with similar kill times or whatever, and see what they're doing. So in that sense, it's really useful. I'll never really understand the people who are obsessed with padding to get to the top of like the individual job DPS leaderboards or anything like that. But I mean, if they enjoy it, then whatever.
Okay.
I still enjoy comparing myself to, say, like the scholars and other speed clear groups or something. Like I still like enjoy doing that.
I just get annoyed.
But I would never really. I'm never obsessed with padding to be #1 or anything like that. I'd much rather do it the most efficient ways for the group.
Isn't it annoying though? Like if you go to analyze someone else's logs and you're trying to see like how they did the numbers they did, you get to a point in the log where they start ridiculously padding, and it's just like, God damn it, and you just want to close the log and not look at it anymore.
I mean, I
not
don't
what-
really care. You just dismiss it at that point and move on.
Yeah. I wish they had a way you could flag it. And just say that this, like, you could flag the parse as like pad it. You could just say pad it and click on it, and people could vote if it's a pad it parse. That would be actually kind of interesting to me, because then you wouldn't have to look at it, right?
I don't know.
There'd be abuse.
I'm
yeah.
sure. Yeah.
I just don't think there should be a ranking. There should only be ranking for like team efficient plays. Like speed kills is team efficient. You don't go for individual parses. You go for the fastest kill, which is competitive. But if you just go for the best DPS, you just can cheese it in so many ways. Like, why even bother?
All right. So let's ask this question that's kind of going into the whole comparison thought process, and actually bringing in Astro and White Mage working together. So Carney asked earlier, how would Astro White Mage compare if Balance card was completely removed or significantly at least nerfed? Would that still be a good comp, or I think that's what he's going for, but thoughts?
I mean, there's no reason for a balance card to be 20%.
Okay.
Nope.
That's pretty much the only thing I have to say.
So you guys feel like it should be nerfed?
The biggest reason why people don't want to play White Mage is not because White Mage is weak or anything. It's just because it doesn't have 20% balance card.
But then again, if you're bringing White Mage and Astro versus bringing in a Scholar,
well, yeah, now you don't have Chain Stratagem without a Scholar, so
okay.
great.
Kionu, Kiyu, Kyo, what are your thoughts, Kyo?
Balance is overpowered. I've never liked the change to balance. Like I said, like we were talking about earlier, I think Astro was in a very good spot in Midas. If anything, the quality of life stuff was enough to bring it in line, and that 20% balance is almost a slap in the face. Just, all right, we're forced to use this because it's overtuned, and they didn't change it for 4.0. So I don't know, I hate it.
Okay.
But I mean, the class is still fun, so it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, so the reason we decided to run Astro, the creator prog, was because it was in a good spot in Midas, and we knew that Shuffle on a 60-second cooldown was becoming Redraw on a 30-second cooldown, and that was enough for us to figure that the balance was shifting enough in Astro's favor that it would be the best healer for us to default to, unless we needed the healing throughput of White Mage.
Okay.
So yeah, balance is
I mean, like, one thing that
too strong.
you don't want to do, a lot of people, or at least they feel, is that you don't want to fix things with nerfs, right? Isn't that like a bad thing to nerf?
I do. No, I
don't think so.
100% nerf it. Like,
Bach, what's your thoughts?
On what, balance or nerfing?
Well, yeah, nerfing, like fixing the game by nerfing.
Yeah, balance is overpowered and kind of akin to what Ayesa said. Yeah, and back to what I said before, like I just kind of put it a different way, is the biggest issue with White Mage is that they're not Astro or Scholar. That's the biggest issue with White Mage. And what I mean when I say that is particularly because honestly, this game is very DPS oriented. This game is very, very DPS oriented. Damage rules this game, and that's kind of weird. But like the best defense is a good offense, because you're pushing mechanics. You're shortening the fight, blah blah blah, and damage utility is so invaluable in this game. So with that being said, if they want to scale back Astro, balance is the best way to do it, because one, it makes the card system more interesting because there's more parity among the 6 cards. That's one. Two, sorry, lost my train of thought. Two, it balances the healing classes a little bit better. And three, for those who care, it kind of like alleviates some of the RNG aspect to speedrunning and flogs padding. So yeah, so it's kind of like 3 birds with 1 stone if they nerf balance. I've never liked that 20% balance. I also think they should just revamp the card system. I like RNG. I like cards. I like that concept. I don't like the implementation. And I think a big part of that is the disparity between the value of each respective card. Because you got 6 cards, and they range from absolute trash, which is Spear, to the card that you want 100% of the time, which is Balance. So yeah.
Well, I mean, if they could make it to where you can at sometimes decide on your card what you're going to pull at that moment, then things like Spear could be more beneficial, right?
I like the RNG aspect. Well, first of all, I don't think that would improve Spirit, but I like the RNG aspect of cards. To be honest, I like it. I think it adds a lot of flavor, and it's making decisions on the fly that you can't, things that you don't have control over, but you still have to control. I really love that about Astro. That is one of the things that really draws me to the class. But they just really fucked it up with the disparity of the cards. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. And Balance, of course, is overpowered, and they didn't seem to fix that from what we've seen going into Stormblood, right? It's still going to be the same situation?
Well, maybe. Like, again, we don't know the final numbers. So I'm just saying, like, hold your pitchforks until Stormblood release. They might still know. Who knows? But yeah, they should know it.
Miunih, were you edging on something earlier that you want to talk about? Did I interrupt you? You don't remember?
I don't know, dude.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
Want to say, like, I fucking hate Balance with all passion. They just delete Balance. No, actually, one thing. Like... fucking elbow. No, I saw a brilliant solution, like, actually, from Black Cat in the chat. He said, nerf Balance, obviously, and then make Presence of Mind AoE, which I think is a fantastic idea. Like, that's a brilliant idea. You would bring a white mage every time. I love it. Like,
so the fix is to make Astro not worthwhile.
No, honestly, they should make Astro worthwhile. Like, Balance should. Honestly, I never liked in this game pure damage increasements or decreasements that is applied. So ball applied is like, why would you give a cooldown to a healer? Like, that should be in the tank, right? And the same thing is with damage application. Why would one class make another class specifically do more damage? Like, it just makes sense. If you had it like, make it more spell speed, make it more like have a more crit, other beneficial stats, I would be all for it. But giving something or someone direct damage buff is just honestly lazy and bad design. And I don't think they should have ever done that. Same with ball. Like, and I'm not talking about like Atlo and like Sacred Soil. Like, those are like AoE buffs, right? I'm talking about specific applied buffs and debuffs.
Okay.
So ball, like, it shouldn't be like a 10% damage decreasement. It should be like, I don't know, parry, I guess, or block. I don't know, not direct damage decrease, because it's, I don't know, it's just bad design. You can break the game like that, which it does.
Yeah, so you think that these things should be more situational, like if a card pops up and then this would be good for this job when they're doing their cooldowns or something like that.
Well, more like, don't make a class be able to break the game so easily, because Balance is 20% instantly, like, no matter what. And you just pull your cooldowns, it's doing stupid damage. Like, if it was like a base crit increase, it wouldn't always be 100% DPS increase, and it would be more manageable anyway. It wouldn't immediately break the game. It wouldn't be, like, you wouldn't always be able to skip phases. You're not going to count on it. So, yeah, just direct damage application or de-application in case of ball is just bad design. They should make it something else.
Okay. I mean, do you guys all agree with Miunih on that?
I agree with the lazy design of balance. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think it's interesting or unique. It's just sort of more
It's an
numbers.
easy fix. All right, you're like,
It's,
oh,
it's passive. Whereas something like
Yes.
Arrow requires you to react to it and change your play style to take advantage of the speed.
mhm.
It's non-interactive. Balance is just set it and it's good. You know, your only interactivity is fit as much off global or burst windows into it as you can, and try to get it more. That's I don't know. It's
Well, I
lazy.
mean, that's kind of the other thought is that Arrow might, or Spear is the best example. Spear takes a lot of thought if you're trying to use it. You have to have the exact right spot, and you have to plan for it, which is not something that Astro is about, right? They're about working with what you got, and it's all RNG. So it's kind of a weird situation, because Spear could be really cool. I still think Spear could be really cool if you could plan it, because it's a direct, it says, hey, I'm giving you this, and you should expect it here. This other player should expect it here, so they can fit this one more cooldown in this one more spot. They know
It doesn't
exactly
work
like
like
that.
that.
And it doesn't right
It's like-
now,
Yeah.
but if you controlled it, it could, right?
The only reason I would use Spear, honestly, is the opener. Like, because everyone always uses their cooldowns. Every single cooldown they have, they will always use in the opener. So that's the only place I would use Spear. Like the others are, like other places are just. I
But
don't
if
know.
you could speak with your other members of the group and you knew exactly when they're popping cooldowns, you could say, hey, I'm going to throw this on you at this point of the fight every single time.
That's basically how you control trick attack as well. Like, I guess it could work, but I just don't like cooldown reduction things in this game because everything is so scripted.
It just
mean,
doesn't work. It just doesn't work in this game. I want it to work. I want it to work.
I like the idea.
It just
It's,
doesn't work.
it's not meant for this game.
Hmm.
For
Well-
the game isn't meant for CD reduction, actually.
You know, I kind of want it. Sorry, this thought kind of came back to me. We went on this whole tangent with FF logs and everything else, but before that, we were talking about clipping GCDs, right? Sorry, and this just popped right back in my head, but clipping GCDs, is that going to be a factor to where a healer's going to be better simply because he has, like, the difference between healers could be latency as well? So if this guy has a better connection, he's going to be a way better healer because they clip better, or
No.
no?
I don't think so.
All right.
Neither do I. I mean, I like if you're whether you're clipping GCDs, like it's gonna have this like bad latency is gonna have the same effect now that it's had before. So, or sorry, like after then, God, now then later, it's gonna be the same thing. You know, it's
Okay.
gonna have the same effect, so it's not gonna be that big of a deal.
Okay. All right. Sorry. It was a thought that I was saving for the end of that conversation, but we got heated. Of course, FF Logs came in, as it does every single time we talk about serious rating. Jesus. FF Logs changed this entire game, man.
I mean,
I still love FF logs. I don't care what anyone says. I think the good outweighs the bad so much. So
No, I agree. I just hate certain people.
I totally feel you though. I totally feel you. Like the bad is really bad, but I think the good outweighs the bad.
Let's talk about this a little bit with our comparison of healers. If you guys had to stack the healers right now, what's the number one healer?
White Mage.
Okay, besides Miunih.
I think it's Astro.
Astro?
I think Astro is king right now, and you have to take one.
It's going to be like a warrior, basically?
Astra has no weakness at all.
Okay. Ayesa, what'd you say? Did you say one?
I'm gonna say Astro.
Okay. So are we putting Scholar in second tier then? All except for, Miunih. Yeah.
It's sort of an interesting position, right? Like, are you talking about raids, or are you talking about dungeons? Because like it's a different.
Well, not dungeons. Let's talk about raids. Dungeons they can easily be broken. I think if you try to put the comparison between dungeons and raids, right? Because dungeons, they don't take as much work to them, so you don't need certain things. But if you can blast through stuff, then they become a lot more valuable. So in focusing towards raids, do you feel like scholars are number two?
Yeah, I think before it was like you had to take a scholar because they just brought too much to the table.
Mhm.
That's my personal opinion. I know a lot of people have felt differently about the healers in the past because it was less of a disparity. But right now, Astro brings too much to the table. They bring the best damage buff in the game. They have really intense potency on their shields now, and so for knocked Astro, and then the Diurnal is as strong as ever.
Mhm.
So I think that Astro is just sort of the best. And now it's, do you take a white mage or a scholar as co-healer? And I still think scholar has that second slot pretty strong.
Okay.
In raids, just because they bring so much utility and mitigation to the table, like they always have. Covenant's still going to be a thing, and now that we have less raid debuff or raid buffs that you can put up for mitigation, Covenant's more noticeable even as a means of mitigating the raid busters coming in.
Okay.
Because we don't have int down, we don't have strength down going on the boss anymore. Well, not strength down works with Covenant, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Bach, what's your thought, dude?
Going back to my scale earlier, I think Astro might be S tier.
You think Astro's S tier, and then
S tier. Yeah. I would rather go. Okay, Astro Scholar obviously the best.
Mhm.
Obviously.
Okay.
I would rather go Astro White Mage than I'd go Scholar White Mage. So, with that being said, I think Astro is so strong right now that, well, like in light of what we've seen, obviously everything's subject to change. So I don't want to treat it as it's a foregone conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
But like from what we know now, Astro's looking absolutely godlike.
Yeah. For those who kind of tuned in a little bit late, we are working off information that has been released that is not completely updated for what's going to happen within 4.0. This is what we expect for 4.0 and what we've learned so far. Ayesa?
In terms of healer pairings, I don't think there's any argument that Astro plus Scholar is the best. After that, whether you think the second place is White Mage Scholar or White Mage Astro, I think it's a bit up in the air.
The thing is, now you're comparing Nocturnal Astro with Scholar, and it's like,
I do not like Nocturnal Astro. Like,
you don't like to play it, or you don't think it's good?
I think it's poorly designed, and the way you play it is just stupid. Like, I don't know. If they really have the 300% on a 200 potency shield that's instant cast that they can just spam, like, come on, man, that's a mindless job. If you just
and weave with it too. It's instant.
You weave with it, yeah.
Yeah, I hate Astro so much. I guess that's clear, but yeah, I don't know. Hard to say which is the best. It depends what the raid content's like. If we have like another Midas where the mitigation's really important, say like going into that second intermission, where you need that huge shield on people, then you want the Scholar. Because deployed Adlo is ridiculous. You can buff that up to such a large extent, even better with large S now and the Bard skill.
Okay.
I don't know. It depends on the raid content.
Miunih?
It's exactly what Ayesa said. It depends on the raid content. Like, we don't know what we're going to raid with. Like, we could get like another A4S. I seriously doubt it. But like, in that case, White Mage would be like fucking fantastic. But I think we're gonna get a creator, like easy on. Like, and I think White Mage and Red Mage are gonna be the best heroes, 100%.
You said White Mage and what?
Red Mage.
Oh, White Mage and Red Mage?
Yeah, dude, that cure is like fucking insane, dude. Like, I'm just saying.
Okay. All right. So that's kind of interesting.
One more thing,
sure.
Right? I need to let this out, right?
Do it.
When I heard Astro at the very beginning, I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna play the absolute shit out of this class, right? It has cards, it looks amazing, it has stars, it's shiny. And then it got released, and I was like, yo, this is just a White Mage. Like, and then I saw Nocturna, and it's like, wait, but this is just the Scholar, right? It's like the fucking thing I hate about Astro. It's literally a carbon copy of both healers.
Yep, no identity. It does not have its own identity.
Yeah, I agree.
To be its own healing class with its own core mechanics.
It has cards, man.
I would have loved that. I agree with you 100%. As much as I love Astro and I love playing it, I totally agree with you that it just doesn't. Instead of giving its own identity, it's just like it's just a different flavor of White Mage and Scholar that you can toggle between.
And I just wish they made like they said a new healer class. I was like, oh yeah, let's go, boys. It's like no, it's just white mage.
That's how
only
they balance this game, though. They homogenize classes way too much in this game. That's how they balance it.
Yeah, it's the same with Ninja. Ninja was just like another like what was it, Dragoon,
the
only with
flavor of melee. Yeah.
And I
Put up-
can
Put up
guarantee
your dots. Put up your buffs. Right?
yes,
You're off
I can
GCDs.
promise you, Samurai is just gonna be another Ninja, 100%.
You think
Like
another
that's
ninja?
how they design classes.
Okay.
We
Like
said this
Samurai is gonna be another Ninja. Like I'm hoping like Red Mage will be like a little bit different, but from the looks of it, it's just like a Black Mage with a jump. Like they don't really make new classes; they just make the same class and just slap a name on it.
You know, we used to have this running joke because like I couldn't remember any of the names for all the Dark Knight abilities when Dark Knight was new. So what we do is we just take like the Paladin or Warrior equivalent and add.
That's
the
what we
word
did,
in front of
yeah.
it.
Yes.
So just add the word dark in front of it. It's like, oh shit, I'm using Dark Rampart. There's like, oh, Dark Sentinel, right? And dark, we call it Unleash Dark Shield Mob and like Dark Flash. It's like everything was just dark and like Dark Home Gang is what we call Living Dead because I couldn't remember any of the names.
No, we did the same thing. I had to heal like a Dark Knight, and I was like, "What the fuck is this ability?" He said, "It's Rampart." It's like, okay, that's all I. That's my A3S progression. I'm just gonna put Rampart, and he was like on a Dark Knight.
I mean, it's very difficult to create a whole. Can you guys even imagine like a whole different healer that works differently?
Yeah, I look at WoW.
Well,
Yeah, look at WoW. Exactly. You know
Okay.
that. Look at WoW. Like, I mean, look at other MMOs. It's like the classes are so unique from each other, and this game is just like you have the same, different flavors of the same shit, right?
Yeah.
Like I love the combat system in this game, but the class design is just so homogenized that like it takes away from the identity, the flavor, and just like the fun aspect of it. Like I wish they'd kind of move away from that and tried to make the classes more unique and you know take some risks. You know, come on, SE, you can do it, right?
That's why I was hoping for like instead of like new jobs, you would just get like a talent tree or something like that. You know, like something that would individualize certain players. Like I play White Mage different than Choy does, and like I like to use my regions way more than anyone else and my stone skins. But now it's all the same healer. It doesn't matter if you're like ASD or White Mage, you just play exactly the same way. And if you look at WoW, I play WoW quite a bit, and I played like both Throughput and healer, like Shaman healer. They're both completely different classes. Like they don't even remotely play the same, and it's both a lot of fun. Actually, I hate Throughput, but like it's just two completely different classes, and this game doesn't have that.
Okay. Yeah, it's true. Now that I think about it a little bit, WoW, they are Blizzard did a really good job with WoW. They made an amazing MMO in comparison to what we have out there at the moment. But then again, it's a Western game, and we're Western players, well, for the most part,
True.
right? So it's a little bit different.
I just wish Square Enix would take more risk. Like everything they do, like even this whole 4.0 expansion is literally just 3.0 all over again. It's literally the same thing. I just wish they would do something new, like give us something else and not just the same thing again.
Well, I mean, like they made huge changes apparently, right?
Like what, swimming? I mean, the WoW went swimming in like 2013, please. Just,
Yeah,
no, it's-
WoW had swimming in 2005.
exactly there.
So that's the big difference. They made a very solid start to their game.
Yeah.
So I mean, like how they would change it up with jobs, they really could do it, but I don't know. I'm not a programmer for their code. I know it's different.
They would dare to take a risk. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, you know, as much as I agree, I love the PvE combat in this game and the content enough that I'm willing to look past those things, but that doesn't mean that I don't wish those things existed. Like you said, take more risks, more identity, more uniqueness, and stuff like that. But I love this game enough that I'm willing to look past that. Yeah, but the point still stands that kind of boring.
Well, I do want to lead this off into kind of why we even care about the stuff, the importance of stuff that we're talking about, why we even analyze this information and everything else. And it comes down to the fact that we love this game still. All right, you guys all still love this game. Am I right? Am I wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I still really like this game. Yeah.
Yeah, and so like when we get into all this stuff and we make these points and we have these huge debates of analyzing this information as it's giving to us, I mean, do you guys feel like it's important that we look into this information? Or do you guys feel like it doesn't matter? I mean, we're talking about the early information kind of going in here and analyzing the stuff before it actually gets released in 4.0.
Hey,
Well-
I mean, I'm just here to have a rant about White Mage. I don't know about everyone else.
I'm just here to trash white mage. Yeah.
Just
I was talking in some of the Reddit comments about this before, but I think all this analysis is really helpful because I'm pretty sure that maybe not this like program in particular, but Square Enix is paying attention to what everyone is saying.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I believe that the Cure 2 proc on Lilies being 100% is a direct result of a lot of the outrage that came out about the White Mage kit as an attempt to fix sort of the design issues that people were complaining about. I really think that all this analysis, these talks and these things like this,
Mhm.
they're listening, they're reading, they're paying attention. And the more we talk about it, the more chance that we get some of the things that we want, or that at least they think about it and fix it some way before release, because they still have a week left. You can
Yeah.
still make
And it's a dangerous thing, though. I mean, it's dangerous to take community opinions because sometimes it's risky, right? Some people put opinions out there, and the mass majority of people who really don't know what they're talking about upvote the hell out of it, and it becomes a very visible topic. So that's dangerous in itself. But yeah, I agree that it's important that we talk about it. But I hear the yeps. Let the yep guy talk.
One point about that though is that community perception is not always correct.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Astro was completely fine towards the end of Midas, but people didn't think so, and that's the reason we have 20% balance. So
I mean, I thought, same thing kind of with Machinists. I thought they were pretty decent, and there's no real big changes that need to happen to them, and now they're like ridiculously overpowered.
Yeah, same as well.
And so, I mean, there are some things out there like that, but I mean, also, if we don't say anything, then some of these things do stay, right? I mean, it's important to have the discussions because there's going to be the wrong discussions that happen out there, but I think today, in our conversations, we're having the right discussions. I don't know how you guys feel like it is, but everything that you guys said makes perfect sense.
This is like the age-old fucking question, right? Like every MMO has this. Like I've played a lot of MMOs, mainly WoW and Eve. The solution they made, basically, the devs trying to listen, is trying to make focus groups, right? And I'm just gonna take this game as an example. There would be like a focus group for like healers, right? Because healers in this game basically play all the healers, and you would pick very specific certain people out of those focus groups. Like I don't know, Booktry does a lot of like theory crafting. You would take him for like all the numbers and shit, right? Like you would take someone in World Prog, not me, because I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, you're not in World Prog anymore.
How exactly? how a class feels and plays, right? Like you need to ask people with experience, people that know what they're talking about, and that's what I'm really scared about in this game, because they don't. They said like people were whining that Bard was bad, and we were like, no, Bard is fine. And now you have like Bard like being one of the strongest DPS, but it's a support class. Balance is the most perfect example of people whining to such a degree that just Square Enix gives them what they want. The difficulty of Creator is another one. It's so low tuned, it's not even funny anymore. Creator is literally the only rate tier I didn't just have fun in. Like I just didn't want to log in anymore. Like,
that's kind of a funny statement, right?
Like, yeah,
I had an
like,
opposite reaction. So,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Exactly, but I don't. That's why it's such a dodgy subject, because you need to have the opinions of everyone, and how are you going to take the opinions of everyone? Because you're never going to make anyone happy.
Mm-hmm.
Like you either need to focus on one group, focus on one community that does one specific thing. Like either make this game a casual game or make it a game for hardcore raiders. You cannot do both. Like I promise you.
You don't think that you can
do
hit the mid-core?
No. Because that's the problem we have now. People are gonna whine about like fucking Bard and balance, and they're like buffed out of proportion.
That's a really interesting topic. Bach, do you have any thoughts?
Sorry, what I was
No,
was
it's okay.
actually AFK for like 30 seconds. What did I miss?
No. We were talking about like midcore not being a group of people that you can really please in this game, and that it's really you're pleasing either the hardcore players or the casual players.
I'm saying you
You
cannot make a game that is for everyone at all times. You need to choose
Yeah,
one
yeah,
community,
there's a
and you
push
need to
pull,
focus on it. Yes,
Yeah, you're
because
right.
that's what Square Enix tried to do, right? They tried to make the casuals happy, and then the hardcore people are like angry, and they are gonna whine. So you make the hardcore people happy. The casuals aren't gonna whine. You need to just focus on one group and just stick with it and just make it.
I don't know if I do agree with that actually. I think you can reach everyone, and I think that's kind of the beauty of MMOs is that you can kind of you reach so many people, right? Because this game has something for everybody. If whether you're into PvP, you're into RPing, you're hardcore, you're casual, somewhere in between, you're into glamour, or some combination of this, right? And I honestly think that the squeaky wheel in this game is the mid-core raiders, because I think they get neglected a little bit. Is there's you have the people who kind of want to I don't know if you want to call them the mid-core raiders, but kind of the introductory to raiding.
Mm-hmm.
You have extreme primals, which is kind of like somewhere in between. It's kind of like an introductory to savage mode content, right? It's in between normal mode creator and savage mode creator, and all you have is currently the only relevant thing you have is Zervan, right? And I just feel like that there's a huge demographic that they could reach there, and there's only one fight that's appropriate to maybe I guess A9 too, right? But I think that's the squeakiest wheel, and if they're trying to gain subs and retain subs, like subscriptions, that is the area that they should aim for. And honestly, that content is so fun, even for really competitive raiders. I consider myself pretty competitive, but diving into a PF group, with very little coordination, and trying to help that group win, it's fun, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I just wish there was more content that was like that, without having to just apply echo to savage content to water it down. If they had more content that reached to that demographic, I think it'd be really good.
Mm-hmm. You don't hear my dogs, do you?
No, we heard them.
Oh,
Yeah, we can hear him.
are they very clear? Or are they just kind of
pretty clear? Can hear him, yeah.
Oh my goodness, I didn't know that they would be woofing so hard. All right, sorry, man, but that's what they thought about your opinion there, Bach.
They agree.
Yeah,
Nice.
I agree with them though.
I don't know.
Are
It
the
sounded
dogs
kind of like an angry
agreeing
Bach.
or disagreeing?
No, it's more like I just don't agree with you. I think if you make medium core people happy, you're gonna piss off the hardcore people.
Well,
and if
well,
you
yeah,
make the hardcore people happy, you piss off the medium core people.
Yeah, fair enough. But the thing is, it doesn't have to come at a compromise to the hardcores, right? If anything, you know what? It might actually help the hardcores, because the more people who can get that introductory to rating, that increases the demand for hardcore rating, right?
You need to have a third tier then, because
you have to have a third tier. You have to.
Because you cannot expect hardcore people to be happy with Creator.
Yeah.
And you cannot have medium people to be happy with God.
You're right. And I guess what I'm essentially asking SE for, and this might be a lot to ask, is to add more content, because content costs money. That's essentially what I'm asking them for, right? In order to cater to more demographics, they have to add more content. So that's essentially what I'm saying. You're right in the sense that if it comes at a direct compromise to hardcore content, you're gonna piss off hardcores. But I guess maybe it's not impractical and easy for me to say, because I'm not paying SE's bills here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me to say, hey, you need to add more mid-core content without compromising hardcore content, is well, where's the money come from, Bach, right?
Exactly.
So I think we agree. It's just we think of it a different way. Yeah.
Well, we'll end up on this tangent here in a second. But I think what we're aiming at, I think would be the solution, is to make content like Creator, make it go towards mid-core content, then just up numbers for hardcore players and lower numbers for very casual players.
Well, that's what they're trying to do right now, because in 4.1 we're getting a super hard fight.
But that's one fight.
People. Exactly, which I'm really looking forward to it, and I hope it's really hard. But one fight is probably gonna be dead in like a day or two. Like I'm.
Well, I mean, unless if it's like super, super hard and they're just tuning it towards the max gear, right? I mean, that's what they're doing, is they're trying to make fights to where it's tuned towards the max gear.
I mean, I'm super optimistic that they're trying to do something, and I'm 100% sure I will enjoy it a lot. We just have to see.
It has to be enjoyable. If they make that an easy fight, then they've completely lost a whole section of their community, I think, because a lot of people are banking on that right now, or at least I feel like they are.
But I sort of feel like they're trying to find that medium right now, with regard to 4.x planning, right? Because if what we heard still stands, we're only getting one dungeon in 4.1, right? Just one.
Are we? Just one regular dungeon?
Yeah, we're getting one regular dungeon as opposed to two, and the trade-off is we're getting a new fight that's going to be like an improved Savage, some kind of really difficult fight in 4.1.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll only have 3 dungeons total per every 2 major content patches, which is a loss. Like they're taking away from casual content and increasing.
Man, I barely do dungeons as it is, and I don't care, to be honest with you, when it comes
What
to
they should do, like, they shouldn't make new content for that kind of shit. Like, they should make old content viable. Like, they should, because every time, this really annoyed me in this game. Every time a new patch came, all the other dungeons were invalid. Like, why don't just up the item level on the old dungeons and put them in expert?
Yeah, I mean, if they made hard dungeons, difficult dungeons, that would be fun. But right now, with the dungeons, yeah, but the 4-man content right now is just you roll over it. There's no thought to it. And so, like, I don't care if they make 1 or they make 50. It's still going to be the same to me. I'll care about them just the same.
Take the old dungeons, like, put plus on it. Like, hell, name it even Mythic Plus. I don't give a fuck. But do something with the old dungeons so we can, like, do something with them. Like, make them viable.
Min eye level in a way, right? But min, like, buff them, not, like, take your eye level down, but buff them up to what your eye level would be.
Honestly, I think there's nothing wrong with recycling content and scaling shit up. Like, this scaling.
Exactly.
There's
Just
nothing
actually
wrong with
make
that.
it difficult.
Man, if they brought back like second coil, final coil, and like made it relevant to like level 60, level 70, like how much, like I know it's recycled content, but like how fun would that be, right?
Yeah, because it's a challenge. If it's an actual challenge, then everyone's going to have fun, I think. And these fights can be challenging if they're done in a way that you can't like outgear it.
And it saves on their costs too, on development costs. It saves on because the content's already created. They just have to tweak numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, but whatever.
Like, I played WoW a lot, right? And they had this Mythic Plus, and they were like the best thing ever. Like, they were old dungeons, not all dungeons, new dungeons, but they didn't make any new ones. But every time you beat one, it just became harder, right? So you do it again, and then you get better loot, right? And then you do it again, and you get even better loot until you die, and then it stops for the week. Like, why don't they do something in here? It's the perfect, like, they have all the dungeons for it. Like, it's all there. You just need to implement a system so you can use the old dungeons for, like, relevant, I don't know, item level patch, whatever.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would like to see them pursuing more difficult 4-man content along that vein. Something they haven't really tried outside of Palace of the Dead.
Right.
There's high levels of Palace of the Dead. There's no other really difficult 4-man content out there. And it's a nice stepping stone because you don't have to commit to this double-sized group, this 8-man raid, which can be a little bit daunting. 4-man is a lot more safe. Like, you can get a couple of your friends together and go in and try it out. I don't know. I feel like it would take less development time too, but I don't really know about that. I don't know what their
Yeah, that's the thing. We don't know
Yeah.
where they spend the money and shit.
Yes, so before we end this tangent, do you want to throw your 2 cents in?
I don't like recycled content. Like, I don't want to see the same dungeons that were like level 50 dungeons at level 60. Because I mean, you say they have the assets and stuff, but it still takes development time for them to scale them up, and I'd rather see new stuff, to be honest.
But then you're just scaling things up versus making new graphics, making new fights with new mechanics and everything else.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, you scale it up, and I guess there's 2 ways you can do it. You either scale it up and keep it exactly the same. You don't add any new mechanics. Like, what's the motivation to go in and do it again?
Well,
because it's difficult.
Did you play WoW?
Is it difficult though? Like, I mean, I didn't do coil back at level 50, but let's say they upped coil to level 70. Keep all the mechanics the same. Are people who did it at level 50 going to want to do it again?
Well, I mean, if it's like scaled towards your eye level and you can't out eye level it, I think that maybe.
Like what?
Hell yes. Give me a
Also,
skill.
what rewards do you add to that content?
Glamour. I mean,
You know, I think it's one of those things where your mileage may vary. Like I would play the shit out of it, and some people who don't like I feel like replay value kind of varies from person to person. I am still having an absolute blast with Creator, and some people were sick of it months ago. So your mileage may vary. It's one of those things that, you know, not everyone's going to agree upon. But the reason I like recycled content is because, let's just suppose, you know, the same quantity of recycled content, you could do 4 times as much recycled content for one piece of new content, right? All of a sudden, the concept of recycled content starts to look more attractive, right? Because you get a lot more you get more bang for your buck, is basically what I'm trying to say.
yeah.
Like I'm not saying this should replace new content. I'm just saying that this should be a supplement to.
Well, I'm not really saying like recycle. I'm just saying use the old content and do something with it.
Well, that's
Implement like some new mechanic with it that you can apply to all recycled content, and then use that to make old content viable again.
Okay,
Like I'm
so
not saying like just make the mobs hit harder. No, make them do something else. Like, you know, those things in like Palace of the Dead, you get like buffs and shit, and like, I don't know, something like that.
make CC viable in like hard content. With
You're talking
dungeons,
about like
yeah.
You're talking about like a blanket difficulty slider or something that's applied to all the old content with somehow scaling rewards, something like that.
No, I'm talking about make them hit harder, obviously, but also do something with the content. Like, you have whole dungeons there, like whole raids there's doing nothing. That's just collecting dust. Like, why don't you use that content, those assets, for something else?
Well, I mean, that's
Like,
what they're
you
going to
get-
be
you get
doing with
content.
the Savage boss, right? That comes out.
Yeah, that's what I heard too.
Yeah, that's one of them, which I'm really happy about.
Okay. I feel like we got to end that tangent just because we went off quite a while on it. But going back, and I just want to summarize what we were talking about with how it's important to discuss and have these conversations. We don't have PTR, so I mean, talking about it, I mean, it can have negative effects, but I think it will always have more positive effects than negative effects in the end, where we actually talk about, hey, these are the changes, this is what we can figure out. And then Square Enix can look at it and be like, does this actually make sense? Then they can try to apply it. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. And then maybe make a change to it. That's how I feel like our discussions kind of affect Square Enix. That's what I hope. I'm optimistic, I guess. Do you guys kind of feel the same with that? That they listen and then try to change this out? Or at least, you know, logically put it together and see if that makes sense with what they have and what they actually know versus, you know, what we know, because we don't know the whole picture yet.
I mean, who knows what feedback they actually take on board and from what sources.
Mm-hmm.
If the only feedback they're taking on White Mage is from the official forums, then I guess I despair a little bit, because I read through some pages of that like 200-page long thread about White Mage suggestions, and I don't know, I think I lost a few brain cells along the journey.
Now, I would love to actually know how, like, what their team does in regards to that. Like, if they had a whole if they did a live letter and they said, this is how our community works with gaining information from the Final Fantasy 14 players, I would love to see like a piece on that. I would watch for hours and hours on end, but I don't know if that's ever going to be said.
I don't think they'll ever come out and say it, but yeah, in terms of how much, like, you know, English feedback they take on, it's a good question. Really up in the air.
Yeah. But I mean, we do see some responses. Sometimes we see over responses, if that makes sense. But I guess we'll see how it turns out within 4.0, because we all have to wait, right?
I just wish they would like talk to us more, honestly.
Well, yeah, it's difficult.
And when you get feedback from, say, like a community manager or a forum moderator or whatever, when they say we're listening, I mean, do you believe that? Like,
well,
who's
I believe the
listening?
person
Give
who
us some
said that is
specifics.
listening, but
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
but who
how
is-
much does that count if a forum
Right.
mod listens to what you say?
yeah,
So yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I would love
I'd
to
love
know
to,
the
I'd
inner
love to
workings.
get some feedback. But yeah, if they told us what format to give it in, like I'd be there. Like if they would say like, we'll read your feedback, just do this. Like I would do it.
Well, here's the thing. You can do it on the forums, and I'm pretty sure that they do listen to the forums and they do watch it. But there's a good amount of people banned from the
Yeah,
forums.
but what do they listen to, right? Do they listen to that guy, like the 2-week-old guy that has literally no idea what the fuck he's talking about? Or do they listen to that 18-year-old veteran that knows literally everything about everything? Like, you don't know.
Whatever has the most
I
responses,
totally
I think.
agree. I totally
That's
agree.
the scary part.
Yeah.
See, like the way I see it is like, how the hell does the Square Enix know the difference between a person who knows what he's talking about and a person who doesn't? And like for example, going back to 20% balance, all 5 of us agree that it was a mistake, and that was a mistake. That was a product of people saying Astro was underpowered when it wasn't. Like they needed a few fixes, but not that. But I perceive the 20% balance like as a direct result of the community being wrong and Square Enix reacting to that. I could be right, or I don't know if I'm right or wrong in this, but like I thought Astro was fine, but Square Enix reacted to how few Astros were clearing content and going white mage instead, and that's how they reacted to it. So that leaves me skeptical over what the actual benefits are of listening to the community.
Mhm.
They need a better process that because deep down we all know that the people who understand this game, from a metagame perspective, are the players, not the devs.
Right.
We know this in many ways. We know this game better than they do, right?
Well, yeah,
Um,
definitely.
but like on that note, like I'm skeptical over how much benefit they can get from community feedback. It's just
Right. Well, I
just
mean,
'cause the community's dumb too.
I will take that back a little bit. We know more as a active player than they know, because I'm certain that we all play the game more than they play it, because they're doing other things too, like they're programming or working on PR or they're doing other things. I don't know if they have a
But it's not the
team
same people,
dedicated to playing.
right? Like the people who like program are not the same people who test the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
What I'm like, I'm just gonna say this: Square Enix has no idea how their own classes work. Like they have zero idea. If I see Bart like do stupid amount of damage, I'm just gonna say you don't even know how to balance your own game. So they're taking it from the players and they're saying like, well, Bart is a bit underpowered, and they believe it, and they just put more power to Bart, or in this case ASD.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how they balance the game. They don't actually know the physical numbers themselves.
Well, I mean, balancing a bard in a group that doesn't have a dragoon, doesn't have a machinist, doesn't have an astro is very different from balancing it in a group that has all 3 of them.
Exactly, but I'm saying like Square Enix doesn't know what their own classes are capable of.
I don't know if I would go that far. I think they have an idea. They just don't put the pieces into like an extreme situation like that. And maybe they did.
If
Maybe
they
they did
knew,
that
if
with
they knew,
Astro, and then
Why
like
would they buff Astro like that?
maybe originally they
It's
did
such a
that.
blatant buff. So
It was a reaction to community perception. That's all it was. That's
Yeah.
all it was.
But then say no.
Theoretically,
Say
Astro
no.
was
No, we don't not doing it.
I think they said no for a bit, and they actually put it to what I thought was a good spot in Midas. I thought Astros were perfect.
It
in
wasn't a
Midas.
good
Yeah,
spot. It was a
it
great
wasn't a
spot.
good spot, but people still didn't play it because they're just like, people had this people just had this misconception that white mage is for prog, Astro is for farm, but like Astro was really good in Midas, right? And like they were on par with white mage in my opinion, but community perception's everything, and Square Enix just straight up said themselves, it's just like, you know what, we want more people playing Astro, so we're gonna buff them. And that's what they said beforehand. You guys remember that, right? Or am I remembering?
Yeah.
I think that I heard something similar to that, but I don't want to speak for them, but yeah, I think that's my loose memory on that subject. I would say.
Well, that's the thing, like you don't want to speak for them, but they don't speak to us themselves. Like, give us feedback, give us like say something to us, like listen to us, and then say like, hey, we're listening to you. Do you have any idea? I don't know. Just talk to us.
I mean, they would have to do that in the forums, but we don't use the forums as our main way of contact because I don't think they can
Dude, I'm
do that
banned
with
from
really
the
with Reddit, right?
Because we're all banned from the
Yeah,
forums.
and so that's an
It's
issue in
run by a
itself.
bunch of athletes, man.
Well, the community's like a couple patches behind when it comes to the perception of balance anyway. Like, when 2.1 rolled around and Warrior got all those fixes, people still were biased against Warriors for a while. Like, they didn't believe it'd been fixed necessarily for a bit. I think Astro was fine in Midas, but everyone still remembered the Gordius Astro, and they were afraid, and they didn't want to accept it. They didn't want to consider it because it wasn't overbuffed. to be so much better. Like the community was behind a patch basically before they were willing to accept it. Like near the end of Midas, like when we were hitting 3.3, I had Astros in my alt groups that I was running Midas with, and they did fine. And my opinion of Astro completely changed by then. You know, but early in Midas, I was still wary. Like this job is probably still not good enough. Like it was hard to tell based on the patch notes. You know, easy to just be really skeptical.
Yeah, when you're chasing a world first clear, are you gonna go with tried, tested, and true white mage? Or are you gonna say you test out Astro and be like, I wonder if they buffed Astro enough that it's good, right? Which one are you gonna go with, right?
Yeah,
it's tough.
Here's the thing, though, and it goes back to one of the earlier points of discussion: is if white mage and Astro are equal in terms of performance, but white mage is a lot easier to play, what's the motivation to change job and learn how to play Astro?
I don't.
20% balance.
I mean, I don't know about that as an argument. I mean, 'cause Scholar was in a similar boat, right? Like Scholar had a bit of a more barrier to entry in the 2.x series, but people still. Well, granted, that was because you had to. You wanted to bring classes, but still.
The difficulty level of Astro is what draws me to it. So fun's a big deal.
Yeah. All right.
I'm not saying it's super difficult because it's not, but I'm just saying that I like managing cards on top of healing. So yeah.
Okay. So what I'm gonna do now is, I mean, we've been running for about 3 hours now. So we're gonna do these questions. Okay. We have some questions that are building up. Are you guys okay with that, or how are you guys feeling?
Wait, 3 hours? What the fuck, dude?
It's been 3 hours. Yeah.
Holy
Yeah.
shit.
Oh shit! I missed my flight. Oh man.
Wait, what?
Whatever, Bach. All right. So here we go. We got questions going. I'm going to just start shooting them out. You guys can react to it as you like. Earlier, we were talking about some of the concerns. Cleese said, a concern that's kind of off topic, but I think is still valid. What are your thoughts on healers having a significant amount of OGCDs, but not many instant GCDs to use in between? Example, Astro and White Mage only having a dot and a regen, leading into a lot of clipping. Do you think that this is a major problem for the class enjoyment, or do you not mind it?
Yes, I hate it. It's a problem.
We all agree on that?
I don't.
Okay.
We touched on this before, and I even though it feels dirty to clip off GCDs, I think the fact that there are ways to make the most of the situation, and there's a lot of, I think there's going to be a lot of skill behind that with healers, and as long as that's the case, that's okay with me. But yeah, it's going to feel dirty. It's going to feel uncomfortable. So I totally feel you, Ayesa, but yet at the same time, you kind of have to make the most of the situation. And it's just like, if I'm going to clip this off GCD because I have to move and I don't have an instant cast for it, this is a good time to draw cards. So you have to mitigate it, just using your brain. And I think that's cool. I think it's going to be cool. Well, at first it's going to feel dirty just because we're so used to always writing our GCDs, but I think there's going to be a lot of play behind it. So I'm not too worried, to be honest.
Okay. I'm going to just start shooting out these questions still. If you guys feel like you want to make a point on the previous question, make sure to interrupt me before I get to it, though.
Well, I just wanted to say real quick, like Bart's complained a lot about the OGCD bloat in 3.x, where they had to like clip kind of annoyingly to get their burst out properly, and it's not really that different with healers now as it's going to be. It's going to feel awkward. It's going to be fine once we like settle on what is efficient, but it's just going to feel bad like until we get it right. I don't know.
I don't know.
We'll get used to it.
It's a healer, so like if it was a DPS, I'd be more annoyed. But like as a healer, I just like.
Well, I mean, healers aren't meant to
I don't
DPS
know.
anyways, right?
I mean, yeah, you just need to heal. Like I don't see the problem.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Helios82. Would the Lilies mechanic be better if they had a button like Royal Road where you could choose to keep it instead of burning it and it stacks up to 3, or would that be too overpowered? We kind of talked about that a little bit, right?
Would not be overpowered, would be fun, yeah. Any more interaction with the Lily mechanic is welcome, as far as I'm concerned. I don't think you could break White Mage by messing with Lily right now, unless you made Lily's add like a % damage boost.
Like, it would be hard to actually mess up Lilies if they did anything to it. Okay. You guys all feel the same?
Yeah.
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 Okay. Musky Thorgal. Apart from the 4 skills you need cross-classed to almost get back to all of your skill, what other skills would a white mage actually need apart from those 4? We hit that a little bit too, but what else did you guys want to throw in there for that?
Stone skin.
Stone skin. Can't get stone skin
It's
anymore.
all I want. It's all I want, dude. I just want my stone skin back. Like, fuck you, Square Enix.
I mean, what else are you putting in there besides those 4?
Life ball. Like, I don't know.
Wait, so which 4 specifically here?
Apart from 4 skills that you would need cross-class to almost get back all of your skills. So the ones that they lost to cross-class.
So Protect, Asuna, Lucid Dreaming, and Largesse then? Those 4 are the former white mage skills that...
Yeah, that would be the 4, I would think.
So then you still have Swift Cast. I mean...
Yeah.
That's rough.
So Swift Cast is 1, right?
And we had Eye for an Eye before, although it was through cross-class. Like, losing that... I don't know.
I don't know. If you want me to ask what I'm gonna use not Protect.
Not Protect. You're gonna be not the Protect.
Like Divine Seal, Shroud, Swift Class 100%, Life Ball 100%, and then the last one is like whatever I need for the fight. Like if I need to use Asuna, I'll use Asuna. If not, I don't know, maybe Cleric. Fault can use Protect. So. Like I'm not doing it.
I'm probably gonna cast Protect and then freaking uncross-class it
I was
in
wondering
in all the other content. It's like, if we die, well, it sucks for you. You don't get
You get it for the first round.
I think it's worth mentioning that like the eye for an eye that's in the roll actions is the talented version. So it's the 2-minute cooldown as opposed to the 3-minute cooldown. That makes any difference for people?
Still on RNG. I don't like RNG.
Okay, let's see. Avelis, with as many skills as they are taken away from white mage and roll abilities, how many of you will actually pick Cleric stance for a 5% damage increase? Everybody's going to pick Cleric stance, right?
Here's the thing about Cleric stance though, like if using it means you have to clip your GCD, then its value as a damage buff goes down quite a bit. But if you can fit it in, it's still useful. Like, you know, there's often a lot of opportunities where you won't have to clip a GCD to use it, like after a phase change or something where people are just going to burst with their openers. You know, you're getting your dots in it, you're using it with a potion or something as well. Like it still has some value there. But yeah, whether or not you can fit it in, I want to take it on Scholar. We'll see. It depends how much value like Asuna has. Like if Asuna is necessary, then you know there's no getting out of it.
Okay. Well, I mean, you'll probably change that fight by fight. One fight will be you need Asuna, the other fight you don't. That's what I'm thinking they're gonna do.
Don't forget that you're gonna get 10 more seconds of it as well under Astro's Celestial.
Yep, that's true.
Bach, what's your thoughts, dude?
My thoughts on Cleric stance. I think that I think it's generally a pretty weak. It's a pretty weak cooldown actually. But with that being said, if you don't need all of those other utility things, right, like Isuna rescue, then you know I have it ranked as basically my 4th or 5th option, right? And you know if you need Isuna, then that's gonna push everything else down, right? So Cleric might be one of the first to go, but I don't think it's that great. It's okay. You just take it if there's no other option. If there's no better option, that's essentially what it is.
Okay. Here's a comment from Musfani. The healer classes have the most uninteresting DPS abilities conceivable. It's now 1 dot spamming a single damage spell. How do you guys feel about that comment?
Yeah, I agree. Like I mean, this goes back to the homogenization, but I mean, before White Mage and Astro were pretty similar, but the Scholar's kind of joining them down there. So you have 2 dots. You have Energy Drain and Shadow Flares off GCDs, and you have Broil. So I mean, you're kind of in the same boat as them in terms of playstyle.
You guys all feel? Q.
I don't think that healer or DPS was particularly compelling before 4.0, but yeah, it's getting worse.
I mean, scholars, I guess, were kind of interesting, right? You put a bunch of dots and you try to keep them up.
I mean, it ultimately came down to mostly your spam move, just over and over and over and
Mhm.
over again, occasionally switching to refresh dots. But I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you play any other DPS job, and the complexity is like you're hitting all sorts of different buttons with different off globals, and it's much more compelling.
Mm-hmm.
Healer DPS has always been pretty meh.
I mean, it's supposed to be like an extra thing, I guess, in the end. Like, I don't know, maybe that's what they're gearing it for. Like DPS if you can, but otherwise, heal, I guess.
And when you look at like what makes a good parsing Astro on like the leaderboards, if you go to the DPS leaderboards and you just like look at what is this Astro doing, you're not going to find anything interesting. You're going to find that he cast like 3 extra Malefic 2s, and that's it. It's like, this is not compelling DPS complexity. He squeezed in a few more Malefic
Get
2s.
the gravities, like all the ads.
I'm okay with that though. I'm okay with the fact that DPS isn't complex because, like the healer. Basically, I kind of like how I rationalize the 3 roles is like DPS is probably the most skill intensive in terms of like manual dexterity, right? Because you have the more complex rotations and you have more buttons to press and stuff like that, et cetera, et cetera. And then tank is, your DPS rotations as a tank is fairly simple. You don't have any positionals or anything like that, but you have to manage positioning, you have to manage aggro, and to some extent you have to kind of like, dictate the pace of the fight, or basically every play flows through you. You're like the quarterback, right? so it's like a different element of
What?
difficulty in each of them.
Quarterback.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I forgot we got.
I don't know how.
EU
I'm
people.
sorry. I thought we have. I forgot we have Europeans in here. Anyway, my point is like each role kind of has a different element of difficulty that is unique to it. Where DPS is more focused on the rotation itself. Tank is more about like you have to manage aggro positioning. In addition to damage, and then healing is kind of like it's more about multitasking, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I like that, and the fact that I don't expect healer damage rotations to be as complex as damage healers, because that's their thing. So I'm okay with it, but personally I really wish that I'm really hoping that it's going to be more healing intensive, because if the new content is more healing intensive, then all the simplicity of DPSing as a healer, all of a sudden it's not that bad. It kind of mitigates that. So, because in creator you barely have to fucking heal in creator, man.
Yeah.
Like how many GCDs do you cast in an A10 speedrun? How many healing?
Dude, I just bought Netflix.
Like 5, right?
Well, and that's the X factor for 4.x, right? We haven't seen any of the primals or the raids. So here's, fingers crossed.
Exactly. The content plays just as big of a factor as the class design.
Are any of you guys going for world first primals here? Yeah.
Yeah, boy.
I mean, I'll try, but
Oh boy, because that's going to be only raid content available at 4.0.
that's a long grind, man. That's going 60 to 70, and then primals with like no sleep. It's gonna be crazy.
The last time was actually an accident. Like Ravana Bismarck, we didn't even try, and we just got it. We're like,
Because no one else wanted to race for that.
no one else was doing it, dude. So.
Okay. Let's see. Also, I had another question about
Kill with 8 tanks. I just want to say that.
Oh yeah. I was looking at the Twitch chat. I wasn't advocating for a complex DPS rotation for healer. Just saying. I was just saying that I don't think it's changed. I don't have a problem with it being easy though. Like I think it's fine.
Okay. Who knew 222 had a question about accuracy. How do you guys feel about accuracy? I'll summarize it. How do you guys feel about accuracy? Is a big change for melding your gear? I'm guessing you guys are happy about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I hate accuracy with like a passion.
Oh
It's
yes.
a dumb stat that means nothing in this game because there's no gear gates. So you're like, okay, I'm just gonna meld like spell speed piety or something, spell speed crit. I don't know. I'll see.
I don't
I
like
love
the
it.
change. I don't like the change. I really like missing my spells. It's just really fun. I love when I cast a spell and it says miss. It's just like warms my heart. Makes me want to like play the game even more.
Okay. Let's see. Failfish Spike. Or no, Flail Spike. Okay, that's how you say it. Sorry, dude. So Den, what are your opinions about Scholar trait to sometimes reduce Aether Flow timer? Equally terrible, but not as bad because it's Aether Flow. What are your opinions on that kind of change?
Yeah, I mean, so we look at each of the healers, and they have a trait that they get at some point while leveling in Stormblood that can reduce the cooldown of one of their abilities. So for Scholar, it's Aether Flow, and you have a 20% chance when you use an ability that requires an Aether Flow stack to reduce the cooldown of your next Aether Flow by 10 seconds. So like it's not amazing, but of the 3 healers, the Scholar trait is the best one, and it's probably the only one that will see any practical use. I mean, it's not a major thing, it's RNG. And you're still going to have to think about how you reserve your Aetherflow stacks if you need them to deal with a specific mechanic. It's, yeah, in my opinion, it's basically a meaningless trait.
Okay.
But the White Mage and Astro ones are worse, so at least we got that going for us.
Okay. Bach, Kyo, Miunih, you guys all feel the same?
Yeah, agree 100%.
Dude, I don't play Scholar.
Yeah, I think the percentages on the Aetherflow one are pretty. I mean, it's a 20% chance every Aetherflow usage, so you're actually getting a proc relatively often. But it's one of those things. It's just there's no interaction. Well, we'll interact in the sense that we'll just push the button more often.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah,
at
exactly.
least
It
it's
doesn't really change the way you play the game. It doesn't really add to the fun factor. It's just there. So it's like, oh, cool, stacks. Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, and it's an ability that we always want to hit as soon as it comes up. Like Scholar differs from like Lightspeed on an Astro. You don't always just want to hit that as soon as it's available, but Aetherflow you do. You want to always be hitting your Aetherflow as soon as it comes up. So it's the most practical one.
Press Lucid Dreaming more often, I would do that, like, always.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
All
And
right.
it's also your core UI mechanic gives you more Fey unions faster. So
we're talking a little bit about comps: Astro, White Mage, Scholar, so on and so on. Salted Levity, how do you feel about Astro and Scholar shields not stacking? That's the question straight up. I'm guessing I want to know from you guys. Do you feel like that's a good? Okay.
It's terrific, because if they do that, the EHP you would get is actually fucking ridiculous. Like, it would literally break the game. So they should never ever remove that stacking penalty.
Mm,
yeah, agreed.
yeah. Everybody.
Like imagine having so much shields you don't even need limit break 3 for an ability that needs limit break 3. Like, it could get to that point where it's just, like, you have so much shields, dude. Like,
Mm-hmm.
no, just stop.
I mean, it's good.
Like Divine Veil on top of that too.
Yeah, dude.
Oh, and the shield wings, dude.
Yeah, and honestly, like if shield stack like that, like that would just like drop White Mage down even more.
Yeah.
I was doing some math on it the other day, and I think with like the shield wings and the collective and the like all the percentage bonuses stacked together, you get something like 50% mitigation. Like taking estimates for stuff like assuming you can virus stuff too, so it's a targetable boss. You can get effectively close to a tank LB2 right now, not including shields. So if shields were also on top of that, you don't even need to tank LB stuff anymore. That's already in the game, so
Yeah.
I'm glad they don't overdo it. Doesn't feel like it's overdone yet.
Not yet. I feel kind of bad about this. This was a question asked pretty early on from our friend Snuggle Thug Bach. She asked, for someone who hasn't been keeping up with Stormblood, what are lilies? So I feel bad if she was watching this show. She didn't know
You have that White Mage Pepe, right?
Yeah.
Like, just put that on screen.
It's there.
Like,
It's there.
just make it huge.
Oh,
Like that sums up lilies.
there we go. Here's lilies right here. This is lilies, guys. Now that you guys can all see it a little bit better, we'll ask this next question here. Koroshu, I think. I don't know.
It's so big! Oh my god.
If you could change how lilies were acquired, what would you choose? And if lilies gave spell speed and immediately buffed your current regions, or maybe added extra tricks, I'm guessing ticks is maybe they mean ticks. Plus the spell speed could mean more stone cast and dot damage. Do you guys feel like adding spell speed to lilies would be a good idea?
It's a start.
Does it
Or
start?
just-
I don't know what to do with lilies, dude.
Yeah, same.
Honestly, I think the only fix is scrap it, try again, and take your time. Do it right.
Throw it in the bin, dude.
Honestly, just start over. Make lilies do something other than cooldown reduction. That's it. Make it do something else. Make it work completely different. Throw it in the trash. Because I think the current system is so far from being a good system that there's no point keeping it.
Mhm.
I think it's just way too far from being a system that works.
Okay. That's actually not I mean, that might be 4.1. Same thing what they did with Warriors. They completely scrapped how they worked, right?
I hope so. Yeah.
Okay. Kyoka Star. How do you guys feel about having one healer and a red mage as a backup than actually having a secondary healer?
Dude, that's the meta. I'm fucking telling it. And I'm just saying, dude. I'm going in there like in World First A4S, and you're gonna see that solo white mage, and you can see that red mage, and he's gonna cast Verki on the tank. There you go.
Are you guys as optimistic as Miunih is here?
I don't know what hard drugs Muni's on.
Okay, fair enough. Let me get this Pepe a little bit smaller. Hold on. Move it back down here. Okay, so let's see. Okay, Klops had a question for you that's completely unrelated to white mages, but it's probably just as important. What is the lore behind your avatar, Miunih?
Wait, which one? What?
The one you're using right now. The one you gave me.
Dude, I just had a random picture on my PC. I just put it like a yellow.
You're not getting bullied? Or people aren't getting bullied?
I don't know. I guess I'm against white mage bullying. Like,
Oh, okay.
white mage is fine.
I feel like you're that dog in that fire building.
Yeah. Exactly like that. Oh, dude, I should have used that picture. Fuck.
Okay. Sai, am I correct in assuming that Miunih is the only one of the four that is going to actually use white mage straight off from Prague?
Yeah, boy.
All right. I'm
I
guessing.
think that's a pretty safe assumption.
Yeah, it's
Bach, are you in that same boat?
I have no intention of playing white mage in raid.
So yes, this is true. This is true, guys. Miunih, you're gonna be the Frosty of white mages.
Dude, I'm gonna make you proud.
I hope so,
Promise.
dude. I hope so.
Are you
All
going to
right.
start a rival podcast?
Rebel Pie. It's gonna be Yellow Talk or something. What is it gonna be? Honey Yellow Talk. Okay.
Oh, my-
Here we go. Zeno has a question for Bach. Who is your best friend?
Oh, that's easy. Zeno's my best friend. You know what he did for me yesterday? You know what he did for me?
What do you do?
We're doing A12. I was playing Dark Knight, which I'm not good at Dark Knight.
Mhm.
I'm okay. I'm playing Dark Knight, and I'm tanking the time ad, and he's tanking the might ad. And just like, I don't know, my brain is kind of turning to mush, and I put down a salted earth on the time ad when it was at like 10% HP. So I'm like, oh shit, what have I done? I just wasted this salted earth. And you know what Zeno did? He went and dragged the might ad right into the salted earth. He said, I got you.
Oh
I
my
got
god,
you.
what a legend.
Dragged it in. I'm just like, you are such a bro. He's like, I got you, man. I got you. And I got maybe like 2 ticks out of the salted earth, but man, it's a thought that counts.
Yeah. No, that's a true bromance, dude.
That is freaking like, man,
Dude, that brings a tear to my
it
eye.
really hits
I'll
home.
be honest.
Yeah. All groups should be like that, man.
Yeah.
Uh,
Selfless plug. It's a highlight on my Twitch. So yeah, it's actually really fun.
okay. All right. Let's see. Oh man, we got a couple questions for. shit. Okay, we got a lot of questions for Bach. Another question for Bach is, what kind of phone is that? That's from C Havoc. The phone you're holding up, Bach? What kind of phone is that?
Shit, man. I don't even know. It's Samsung.
It looks like, yeah, it looks
Some-
like a Samsung.
I don't know the numbers. I just
See, the
bought
old
the damn
looks the
phone.
same.
Okay. It's
Okay.
not the newest one, but it's the second newest one.
S5.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Because I got. Oh no, it's not probably S5. Maybe S4 or something. Okay. Next question here. This is from Miunih from Black Cat Honks.
No.
What do you think about the skulls, or what do you think about skulls that use instruments? Most importantly, trumpets.
Yo, listen, the white mage rare is the better meme now. Like, this is my favorite meme. It is so perfect. I don't know, dude. Like, fuck the dudes. This is the best meme now.
This is the best one.
Wait, which
Yeah.
one? The white mage.
The
Mage
mage rare.
No more dude. It's just white magery.
Yeah, it's the re. It's so good.
Okay, another question for Bach. Moon Nasher, can you ask Bach if he still streams, or do we have to have seen his last stream? What? Can you ask Bach if he still streams, or we have seen his last stream? Oh, are you done streaming, Bach?
Long story short, we had an incident last night, and I said I was gonna stop streaming forever.
Oh,
I'll think about it.
okay. Well, that would be sad. You're a good guy. I like you, and I hope you do stream more.
Oh, thanks, man. I like you too.
Oh, thanks, dude. Okay. So, got a question for me. Frosty, will Cryo dodge AoEs in Stormblood? No. Next question.
Wow, that was quick.
Unless if Kerr pulls him out. I mean, that would be the solution to it, I think. Saitama, did Bach get them digits last night?
I'm not answering any questions about last night. So next question.
Okay. Who is your favorite fan or stalker, Bok Choy?
I am not answering any questions about last night.
Was that in regards to last night? Oh, man.
No comment.
Okay.
Move on.
All right, moving on to the next one. Question for the broadcaster from Ghosties. What champion would you recommend for first-time League player?
What?
I don't know. I don't think I've ever played League. I've played Dota, but I've never played League, so I don't know which one I should pick. Is there one that's like a snowman? Do you guys know?
Like Nunu?
Never played
No,
League.
Snowman. There's freaking Snowman skin for Heimerdinger. He's literally a snowman. Play that.
Okay.
That'll fit you so well.
Excellent. Does he also support jobs that are irrelevant?
We need this tumbleweed.
Tumbleweed.
question?
Where's my
What was
tumbleweed? Does he also support jobs that are irrelevant?
Does what? Support jobs?
Okay, we're done.
Okay.
It
next.
failed. It hit the ground. It's gone. The joke's gone, man. The joke's gone, dude. All right. I think that's all the questions. I think we did a good job with all these questions here. We do have one more. Hold on. I got a question for Ayesa. Who's the best caster and angered, and should I just end myself for not being able to be as skilled as him? This is from Baltimore 15.
Wow. So, I mean, this is the biggest meme question.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Okay. Leith Noir is the best caster in Angered.
Okay. All right.
Should you end yourself? Probably not, but maybe Mini Don should.
Okay. Fair enough. All right, guys. It's been 3.5 hours. I think we've hit this topic pretty well, and you guys have been actually excellent. Yeah. I think we hit it pretty well. I mean, we could start back over if you guys want to start back over.
I'm good.
You good? Good. I mean, it's kind of to summarize all this stuff. White Mage is looking kind of shady, but they're not looking so shady that people will not play them. Like, they're not going to stop people from making clears.
You know what? I want to make one point about White Mage.
Sure.
Is that like, just kind of in general, not even about White Mage, is I'm kind of surprised at how obsessed the community is with like having the best meta. It never used to be like this. Like if you think about it, like the meta right now is as balanced as this game has ever seen, but everyone is so obsessed with the meta, and it kind of like boggles my mind. And I'm just like okay, you could get 2% extra damage by running the best team comp, but like even people who are playing this game at like 50-60 percentile players are still obsessed with that. And I'm just like, if you care so much about that 2% extra damage, why don't you just, there's a lot of room above you to get better. So I don't understand why people are so obsessed with it. I blame Delete Monk. So Kyo, you're you're responsible.
Yeah.
But no, I'm just joking. But no, honestly, I just wish that people would just see the bigger picture and realize that like it doesn't matter as much as people think, unless you're truly chasing those world first clears where you're severely undergeared, or you're going for world record on speed kills. Like if neither of those things apply to you, it really doesn't matter that much. So if you really want to play white mage, go play white mage. If somebody in your group wants to play white mage, don't kick them for an astral, and don't force them to play astral. Like, come on, man. We complain that it's weak, and yeah, it needs some love, but like people don't even understand why the meta is the way that it is. They just want to copy what the good players are doing. So it's just, man, get over this meta obsession, please.
And it's kind of funny. Go ahead.
No, that's all. That's 100% agree.
Yeah, it's funny because I understand kind of what you get out of the game. At least I believe I understand that you like the challenge of just having fun with the game and going out there. So speedrunners, they want to kill stuff really, 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 really fast. And that's kind of what they're going for. And that's what's actually seen out there. Bach, you have fun by killing a fight with 8 tanks. So you set your own challenges out there. And I think a lot of people, they don't see that. And they're looking at, how can I make this fight as easy as possible for me? Instead of, how can I just clear the fight and have fun and get over the challenge?
Oh, you're exactly right. You got to make your own fun, man. I mean, the game's there. You got to make your own fun, whether you're into speed running or whatever. You just gotta make your own fun.
Yeah, and I think everybody should see that, and they shouldn't look at their group and say, well, we're actually having a harder time, so we shouldn't even try, because we're not set up for 100% success.
I wish people would be more obsessed with just like having fun with the game than trying to be that one guy that's the best, and you're not even fucking close. Like, unless you're actually going for actual world first, and you know exactly what I mean, like literally the people who actually can achieve world first or go for those fucking insane speed kills, like props to Kyo, because I couldn't fucking do that. Then yes, the meta matters. Other than that, just play whatever the fuck you want, dude. Like, it's your game.
It's your $15 a month, or 12 or 13 or whatever it is.
Well, yeah, but just don't waste other people's time. But other than that, just like, just play your game.
Yeah.
The thing is, I don't know. I'm still like, this conversation is harkening back to some very old Realm Reborn memories. Like back in the day, Summoner versus Black Mage was a very heated discussion about which was the better caster. And Summoner, was viewed as very underpowered after the nerfs when they lost Thunder as their cross class. It's like way back when. And I just remember like people really cared about that, and summoners were ostracized for quite a while. Just like, don't take a summoner. You don't want a summoner. You get on Black Mage. This is first coil even. Okay. Thunder was removed in like, I think it was 2.1. I can't remember if it's 2.1 or 2.2. So it'd be SCOB. SCOB times roughly. But yeah, there was a heated discussion about which one was optimal back then. And I do think people were caring more than they should about which one was better, when it was just like, play whatever you want. But I feel like whenever there's a decision to be made, one way or the other, people will try to pick which one is better as a community. And it's, the more jobs we get, it's just a natural progression. Whenever there's a choice of which job to take, there's debate about which one is optimal.
You know what it is? It's like, so sorry for Europeans. I'm going to reference American sports again. Michael Jordan wears a certain shoe.
I know Michael Jordan.
Basketball's pretty global.
Yeah, I know him. Okay.
Michael Jordan wears a certain shoe. All the kids want to wear that shoe, right?
Yeah.
Roger Federer uses a certain racket, and now everyone wants to use that racket, right?
Yeah.
So, like, you know, if you wanna relate that to this game, you know, it's just like all the top speedrunning groups are running the meta comp. So it's like we got to run the meta comp. I feel like that's what it is. I feel like that's what it is. And people don't even understand why the meta comp is the meta comp, and they don't even understand, and and just like if anything, it detracts from their enjoyment, and they don't even realize it.
Exactly, and it's the same thing with like people who say delete monk but don't actually understand why monk was bad, or like it's not even bad, dude.
It's
It's
not
like
even bad.
monk is
It's a
amazing.
running joke.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that being said, I do want to give a shout out to my raid team who I said I was going to play Paladin throughout Creator. And we played Paladin throughout Creator. And we did that. We had a monk with us too, of course, which made it a little bit more viable. But the fact is that we went in there and we made it work. We weren't just like, oh no, you have to be Dark Knight Warrior and whatever the optimal comp is. We were just like, this is what I want to play, and we're just going to clear it the way it was. And I had a lot of fun doing it and figuring out how I could make Paladin, you know, useful in certain situations there. It was way more enjoyable than just doing a cookie cutter build with Dark Knight. I don't know. But that's how my perspective and my group, which I think a lot of people, the majority of people who play this game, they're in the same situation. They're not out there trying to clear something faster than everyone else. They're trying to go out there and clear it. Right?
Yeah, I respect that, man. I respect that. I wouldn't want to heal you in A12, but I respect
my healer, luckily I'm engaged to one of my healers, and the other one's just a nice guy.
Were you using Hollowed Ground to block 2 half gravities? That's the real question.
I was using Hollowed Ground. Where did I use it? I used it at the very beginning to block, to make it to where they didn't have to heal me at the beginning of the fight.
Oh,
Is
on the
that,
pull?
is that a reference to the healer time gate?
Oh, no. It's the
Okay.
time and might. The time and might. Shoutouts to my raid
Oh,
paladin,
right.
my
Oh,
alt,
hell yeah. Yeah.
Autumn Ocrite.
The window that you have to do that is like tiny.
It's really tiny. It's like 9 seconds between half gravities, and Hollow's 10. So the window is tiny.
Okay, I got confused because half gravity is also the ability that you get hit by in the healer time gate.
Mm-hmm.
And in our 8 tank clear, that's how we handled it, is we hallowed ground 2 of the half gravities.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Well, I mean, like in that situation too, the fight's not impossible. It does make it to where people need to heal a little bit more, and they don't get as high DPS. But the only reason they would care would be ACT, right? Am I wrong?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. The situation I was talking about, like we had the warrior pull in that group, and then the paladin would take over
Yep.
for the time, and so he had hollowed for those 2 moves, and it just felt like he needed 0 heals. Like the entirety of time and might, the paladin needed 0 attention, which was very different from healing a Dark Knight. So I was like, wow, this is a strength that paladin can bring. It just proves that some fight designs can cater to a paladin.
Well, and the other part that kind of catered towards paladin was the unmitigatable. When you're dealing with puddles and you're taking, I forget what the move was called, but it was the unmitigatable AoE one. Divine Veil mitigates it because it doesn't need a target.
Yep. Divine Veil is like god tier regardless. So.
Yeah, I mean, I had fun trying to apply these things and trying to apply cover in certain spots to just get a little extra DPS or get something. Just using all my abilities, it felt good, and it wasn't like something that I could just ask every tank. If I ask a tank, they're like, I don't know. I do whatever Dark Knight ability here instead. I'm like, okay. Because no one plays Paladin on that fight. And that made it actually kind of enjoyable. But hopefully, I don't think White Mage is going to be in the same position as Paladin was for A12S. Which was,
I don't think.
Yeah. Because it's not a similar situation. I believe, but we'll see how all that turns out.
You know, the only one thing I'm hoping for is like that Square Enix tries to make fights where there's more healing, and I'm not meaning like more harder hits where you have to like heal through, but more smaller hits where you have to heal through. So this one to micromanage where you have to just heal more time than just harder hits, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, I think so.
Because most of your time you just spend either doing nothing or you just press your stone 4 button.
Or you have to consciously still heal.
Exactly. I want to heal things. Like the Benu phase in like T12 is a perfect example because there was a lot of healing that had to be done there, and it was like one of the most fun I had there because I actually had to heal things. Because that's why I play healer.
All right. I feel like this is a good note of going through the last bits of this conversation here, we can go ahead and start getting towards the final part of it. And I want to tell you all that I extremely appreciate you coming on and having this conversation with me. It really means a lot because this is the first show I've been back on since, well, besides doing a show from Ukraine that was kind of crummy and taped together with the internet I had over there. But like since I've been back, this is the first like real MogTalk I've had, and I appreciate you guys all coming in and being a part of that.
Well, thank you, man. It's been an honor.
Yeah, of course. Everyone I have on this show right now, I would have you on for every single show. Like almost. I would not have a problem saying, all right, next week I'm going to have Spock on again, or Kyo on again, or Miu on. Like I know it's going to be a good show, automatically.
Wow, Ayesa got cooked.
Yeah, I know Ayesa too. Sorry, Ayesa, you too. I just wanted to make the example, and you were the last person on the screen. This is the last name to read. But before we leave here, Bach, are there shoutouts that you want to do?
Shoutouts?
Yeah, shoutouts, man.
I gotta come up with a shoutout.
Mhm.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, there's a shoutout. You know, I shout out my static, but that's so cliche. So you know what? I'm just gonna pick out one person for my static to shout out.
Okay.
It's not Zeno. I don't want to here. But
Okay.
my shoutout's gonna go to Momo. He's the newest member of our static.
Okay.
This is a guy whose reputation preceded himself when he applied, and I'm just like, when we got his application, I'm just like, isn't this guy like one of the best ninjas in the world? He could join any fucking group he wants. Why the fuck would he join our group? But you know, and getting to know him and talking to him and you know, seeing what he wants in a group and stuff, you know, and we had a lot of applications too. So you know, out of all the groups that he could have joined, he chose us, and out of the people that we could have gotten, we chose him. So you know, everyone's kind of looking forward to Stormblood, and you know, new abilities, new content and stuff. But like a big part of this game for me is the people I play with, and like having Momo join the team is like, you know, changes our group dynamic, and I just know that he's going to add so much to our team. So shout outs to the new guy, Momo.
That's awesome, dude. And of course, if you guys want to watch Bach, if he streams again, I don't know the situation. I won't get in there, but his stream name is right there on the bottom of his picture frame. Bach Choy, KN. We'll see what happens with that in the future.
I quit streaming though.
Yeah, you quit. You quit. But if you come back, follow him if he comes back, right? You might be able to...
Right. Yeah. Follow me in case I come back, guys.
Yeah. You need to get a Twitter, by the way, man. Just like make one and never go back to it. Just have it exist. So I can add you onto my tweets. Okay. Kionu. Your new name? Kyo, thank you for coming on, dude. Do you have any shout-outs you want to do?
Shout outs to Francis Stark because I see him in chat. So
Is that the paladin from PvP?
just didn't want to think he was being ignored.
Mhm.
No, I mean, particular, like the only person I could think to shout out to would be Mal Reynolds because he's been pretty awesome in the prep leading up to Stormblood. So people in EM really thankful for him.
It's awesome. What's he doing?
He's taking control of
Everything.
pretty much everything. Yeah,
Really?
a lot of the decision making, a lot of the crafting side of VM, stuff like that. He's been immensely supportive.
That's awesome,
He's
dude.
also been healing PvP too.
I'm going to get you on a PvP show coming up soon after the expansion, Kyo. I hope you understand that.
Oh man, I'll have to hop back into solo queue again.
Okay, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it all turns out. Do you don't stream currently, do you, Kyo?
I haven't been streaming much lately now. I'll be streaming a ton in Stormblood though. Starting
Okay.
day one, I'll be probably having a 24-hour stream.
Okay. Q, please follow him. It's Kionu for your Twitch name, right?
That is correct.
Okay, you didn't change it up on me like Klops did. All right. Miunih, thank you so much for coming on the show, dude. What's the shout outs you want to do?
I got two shoutouts, right? Okay, the first one is to like Arthur's community because I don't know, I just have a lot of fun with those games. Like I play other games with those guys as well, like not as much as EM, admittedly, right? So those are like cool people. except Arthur's.
Okay.
And like the second one is a bit weird, right? But I want to shout out Square Enix for dealing with our consistent bullshit that we give the game. Because we just whine, we bitch, we fuck around, say the game is shit, say the classes are trash, and they just fucking deal with it. They're like, okay, we're just gonna make it better. Like they throw it away, like Wildstar, like whatever shit game you guys are playing. No, they stick with the fucking guns, and they make it a good game. So props to them.
Yeah, I mean, we all have our gripes and complaints.
Props to Yoshi.
Yeah, props to Yoshi, definitely. We all nitpick tons. I mean, you might be blocked on their Twitter, Miunih, but
Yeah,
I mean,
that's fine.
but
Yeah, I know, and I know, like, I know they listen. Like, there's not a lot of feedback, but I know they sometimes listen. So
yeah, okay.
good shit.
All right, Ayesa, thank you so much for coming on the show again, dude. Do you have some shout outs you want to do?
I guess the only shout out I have is to the Balanced Discord. If you're looking for job help, particularly after Stormblood comes out, then that's a good place to ask for it. Other than that, just thanks for doing the show, and thanks to everyone else, like Bach, Kionu, and Miunih for being here. It's been fun.
Awesome, dudes.
Yeah, you too, man.
Yeah, you too. You too, dog.
Definitely thank both of you, Bach and Ayesa, for all the posts on Reddit. Like, you guys have been really filling Reddit with a lot of good information, so really respect that.
Bach's a Reddit legend, man.
Great reads.
Hell yeah, I love Reddit. Honestly, the subreddit gets a bad rap, but like honestly, I love Reddit in general, not just the subreddit. And I don't know, it's just one of those things, right? It's just like you kind of want to, you know, I'm not trying to be all high and mighty here, but just you kind of want to be the change you want to see, right? So I don't know, I try my best.
Yeah, be what you want. You envision you want someone else to be. Like
Reddit gets all of my salty rants, so
You don't know,
I mean, if
right?
any of those posts are actually useful or informative, then whatever. I don't expect them to be.
Yeah. Reddit's like the #1 point of communication between all the players in the game right now, which is sad because it would be nice if the forums were, but they would have to change up a lot for that to happen.
I mean, if I wasn't banned.
Yeah, if most people are banned from it.
Who here's banned? I'm banned.
I'm not.
I'm banned.
I am not banned.
Yes, are you banned from
You must
forums?
not post there then.
No, I'm not banned. I don't. I've made exactly one post there, and it was in that White Mage thread. And I told them the best way to balance White Mage is to delete balance.
You know how I got
Delete
banned?
the balance card, Master. So that's the only thing I've ever posted on the forums, and I won't post anything else there because
They might get you.
all the cool people are banned apparently, or like not there.
Maybe you need
so
to try to get banned so you can join the cool club.
Dude,
maybe.
I got a 7-day suspension for talking about parsers, and during my suspension, they banned me for the exact same post for a repeated infraction. That's the same post, dude. I got punished twice for the same post.
They need,
Yeah.
they need a big change up on the forums. I completely agree with that. And if I had make a suggestion to the Square Enix team right now, it would be right now fix the forums, and then a lot of good things could come from that.
Yeah, it's difficult to want to discuss anything there if you're worried about being banned for mentioning something having to do with ACT or FF logs.
Yeah.
Because they form the basis for a lot of the theory crafting and discussion in this game. So if we're not free to mention that there, then I don't think the community will ever see that as a good place for discussion.
Yeah. All right. Well, I want to put a special thanks to everybody watching the stream. You guys have been awesome being here. It's just been a really great conversation. And also, thank you very much for the question gatherer, Kurara, and Supreme Mod of the chat, who's helped us make sure to keep things in line. All the other mods that are helping out as well. Andre Kane for the theme music that we're using. We might be changing up the theme music coming soon. Keep an ear out for that. I've contacted someone about it. And Blizzana for the artwork. Thank you very much for doing the layout and the images that you guys see up here. MogTalk, the next MogTalk that we're going to do is going to be likely on server down day. I'm going to try. It depends on if I can get all the resources together.
Wait, what time? Because I'm going to be sleeping, dude.
The plan is to do it within roughly 6 to 7 hours before the servers come up.
Yeah, I'm asleep.
Possibly
Bye.
a lot of people are going to be asleep. but I feel like there's going to be a big gap in information that's actually going to happen, and it might be interesting for all the people just sitting there aching for the servers to come up to have something to talk about. And so I might do a MogTalk where we actually do a show going over all the highlights of the expansion before they actually can log in. But we'll see. I mean, everyone's saying that no one's going to be awake, but I bet a lot of people are going to be awake. I think a lot of people are actually going to be awake, and then they will go to sleep after.
I'd be surprised if you get like 2 viewers, dude. I think everyone is sleeping.
I don't think so. Bach, are you sleeping during that time?
I don't know. Maybe I might like check my retainers and like do my retainer ventures and go back.
Well, no, it's server down.
Oh, server down. Oh, yeah. I don't know. I like to maintain my sleep schedule.
Because you guys got to read the patch notes, right?
Yeah, I like to maintain my sleep schedule, but it's like it's gonna be tempting not to, like, you know.
Who's going to be like, oh no, I'm going to just sit here and wait. I'm going to go to sleep and I'm going to miss out on all that information that's going to come out with the patch notes and all the conversation.
I want to read. I don't want to read the patch notes like ASAP.
People are going to like pick it apart and it's going to be great. We'll see. Kyo, Ayesha, Ayesha. There you go. I did it again. How are you guys going to be asleep too?
I have no way of knowing. My sleep schedule is wildly out of control, so rip.
Okay.
I would hope to be asleep by this time.
We'll see. Oh yeah. What time is it over there right now?
It's about 2 a.m. here.
Nice.
Even later for Miunih, probably.
The night is young.
There's
some traps to do.
Sun's not up yet. Okay, guys, but we'll see how that works out. I do want to end this off. I'm going to roll the credits here, and then after a few seconds, I'm going to send you guys off to another stream, which I'm actually going to pick. That is a creative stream that's coming up soon. I think it's a Stage Reborn. They're doing their thing. So I'm going to send them a host just because it's kind of no one does what they're doing in the game. And it might not be catered towards the people that we have on the show and in the chat, but might as well. I want to support with what they're doing. Do you guys know what they're doing? They're doing a live play in the game.
Oh, I heard
nice.
of that. Yeah.
And so it's going to be pretty interesting. You guys should check them out. They are starting here within just a few minutes, so I'll do a host that way. And again, guys, thank you so much for watching the show. And
thanks for hosting, dude. Like,
yeah, of course.
Thank yourself. Jesus Christ.
Thank you, Frosty. I've done such a good job. Oh,
Yeah.
Such a good job.
Oh my God,
Guys. All right, everybody say bye. You guys say bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys. Bye. Stay frosty.